Hello and welcome to Big Freakin' Friday on the College Football Mafia Network. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. With me are my partners in crime. That would be the WildU and Immaculate. How we doing tonight?
Happy Friday. It's the
Gotta
freaking
bring-
weekend.
Got to bring that energy. Let's go.
Let's go.
It's been quite a day so far. We'll just say that.
Yeah, I think in the green room before we started, Immaculate and I were talking a little bit. And I think it's starting to wear people. I think all this realignment stuff backed up right after college football playoff negotiations. It's a lot of energy, and so I hope everybody that's here tonight. We're going to start off with some headline news, and then we'll really hit into the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, specifically the Florida State hearing today that was in North Carolina, and we'll have to see how that goes. Immaculate was watching that blow for blow, so I'm looking forward to getting his opinion about how that went. But we really appreciate everybody being here on a Friday night. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, and then consider becoming a paying member of the College Football Mafia family. And this is how you do that.
Want to become a member of the College Football Mafia family? Simply select the Join button from our homepage. There are several options with their own unique benefits to choose from. You can also set yourself to auto-accept gifted membership by selecting the gift settings options as shown.
You tell everybody why those memberships are so important.
Because there's awesome benefits that you get for being a member. You get videos behind the membership wall here, WildU University videos. You also get awesome freaking chat icons that I love so much here, like the Georgia Tech chat icon. Also, you get to decide which content is driven on WildU University. We throw out polls to see what you want. And so we try to take care of our members. And of course, members' chat comments get read first, as always. So consider it, definitely.
Well, we appreciate Utes' hard work putting those together. What's the next video, Ute?
The next video is WazU and Oregon State. WazU and Oregon State to the Big 12. Is that a legit thing? Is it a fit or is it not a fit? So I'm curious, guys. What do you guys think of that? Just like off the top here, without even looking at any of the data yet. I'm curious in your thoughts.
Immaculate?
Just in terms, I'm curious to see what your numbers come with. I mean, I've kind of had a bit of a bias going for it. I've got a little bit of soft spot for them. So I'm hoping that the numbers look good, but I really do not want to allow my bias to seep in. So I'm just going to kind of take it in as you present it. But I do think it's going to cause a lot of folks in our community here to get pretty loud about it on both sides. So it should be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm looking forward to it.
Everybody knows my opinion. I've wanted them in from the beginning, right? I think they're a good fit culturally. Washington State brings an amazing fan base, way higher than most people even consider what that would be. You'll cover that. And then Oregon State's been competitive. I'd say the last 5-6 years, they were in the top 2 or 3 in the Pac-12 for how competitive they were. They pushed Utah each and every year. And I think from a competition standpoint, Oregon State would be fantastic. So from my standpoint, in my opinion, I really think that it would be a great move. But going on logically, and I don't know, you and I have gone back and forth about this for a while.
We've talked about this for a year.
It's a passion project, right? Which is more important, the continuity of the continuity of building the Big 12, bringing in more schools from the East Coast, or are you going to bring in fits that would be hand in glove fits, but maybe don't bring all the East Coast bias? So that's all the stuff that's going to be in the video. About how long that video going to be, you?
I want to make this one shorter, and I'll be honest with everybody out there. This is the best one by far. Ooh. Seriously, you might not enjoy this one as much if it's not with your favorite team. I'm telling you, as far as content-wise, quality-wise, this is nails. I love it. So I'm hoping you enjoy it. Bomber will probably record that tomorrow. And
sure. Yeah, if you want to.
Let's here soon.
Yeah, let's get a time together and let's do that. I wanted to bring this up also. For the last 3 days, we have had, and let me bring it up on the screen so everybody can see it. The last 3 days, we've had this Coos Corner short. Coos is going to start doing some stuff with us. It's also behind the members wall, and it's Coos Corner. Why Notre Dame will not join a conference? That's his opinion. It's an opinion piece. But it's right here. It says members only. So that's why those memberships are so important. Let me cut back to that other page where we see these are all the videos that have been put out before, and there's a ton of content here. So if you're a Big Ten fan, or you're a FSU, Clemson, Miami, or North Carolina fan, you need to come and watch those videos. They're fantastic. And right now, I believe they're unlocked, right? Anybody can see them?
Anyone can see them, yeah.
Okay,
Georgia
that's
Tech
what I
one
thought.
was
Georgia
released
Tech
earlier
one.
today. Yeah, the
Yep.
Georgia Tech one that we all did, which was a
Okay.
blast, actually, having that as a live show for members a couple weeks back and everything to enjoy that one. Plus a Georgia Tech at Friday night.
Georgia
yeah.
Tech drinking game. So yeah,
Georgia Tech.
let's do some introductions here. While you're watching us, make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow, and make sure you turn on the notifications. And then lastly, get involved. Immaculate today. How many hours, Immaculate? 8 hours. You were on Twitter answering people's questions, following Doug Rohan's reports, which we'll talk in a little bit
Yeah.
about the ACC lawsuit from Florida State.
Mhm.
I mean, give us your indication of how that went today. What's your end feeling coming out of the day?
Well, it was a lot of fun, first off. Ron, friend of the show, he
Yep.
is really good at what he was doing there because, he brings his understanding as an attorney, but he also, based upon, I think, the type of work he does, he's very good at relating the law to just your everyday common layperson. So he was doing a very good job of that, but he was just putting it out so quickly that I was just doing my best in replies, and I wasn't the only one. There was others too, trying to put some just kind of more common talk to it, just my
Right.
take on it, and it was just nonstop. I mean, between reacting to the people, reacting to the reactions, and then keeping up, it was a lot of fun, and the day flew by. I had all kinds of work of my own that I had scheduled to do, and I just blew all
Didn't
that.
do it. Okay.
Had a little-
Well, we're glad you're here, and we're glad you're going to be able to give us that first, or I would say second-hand running commentary, how that went. And on top of that, I know Ute has some really critical questions to ask on the legal side. Hopefully, we can address those
Always.
tonight. We're also going to have some guest stars. I've invited Danielle Kelly, who's also an attorney, a friend of the show, to come on and give us some legal analysis. I'm not sure we're going to get her. She's been very busy today, as you can imagine. I think she was on 3 other shows today. Lawyers can do that, I guess. They don't have to have real jobs.
Lawyers, and plus, like, she is like the weather lady here for multiple
She is.
radio stations. I
She
mean,
does,
like, she
yes.
is connected, guys.
Yep.
It's hard to get to her.
Well, she likes us a lot, so that helps. And then here in about 20 minutes, we're going to have Jeff Fuller come along, who is a statistics guru. He knows the financing and what it takes for these conferences to run, and his analysis on what he heard today, I think, will be extremely interesting. He's very jazzed up for it. Ute primed him with some good questions, so hopefully he comes in here, and that's a good QA, and you guys can get more out of it than you've gotten from anybody else today, because I know we're later in the day. We weren't tracking it live at the time, but we do that on purpose. One, we're not really a live show group. We could if we wanted to, but there's better people that do that out there for us. But what we are better than almost anybody is we analyze, and we actually put it in layman's terms, like Immaculate just said, so people can understand what is being reported by Doug Rohan. What are they saying on these radio shows and on YouTube during the day? We're going to break that all down, and I'm really excited about it. Let's get some shout outs. We got a bunch of people here just to start off the show. Let's see. Let's start off with, again, first in the house, Buckshot Kid. One of our members says, "Oh, hey, the College Football Mafia, Buckshot Kid, we love you. Thank you so much for being
You have to
here."
start calling him the first shot kid.
Woo, there you go. There we go.
Joaquin.
Joaquin Morales says, "Greetings to the College Football Mafia family. Smash that like button. Let's go." Thank
Fellow
you so
Valley
much
member.
for that. Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
He's telling
that.
me where he's from. Yep.
Okay. No stalking. Okay.
No,
Immaculate. No stalking.
no, that was not how it went. He was telling me.
No,
I'm
it's
just
just
teasing
friendly
you.
conversation.
I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing you. All right. Nathan Campbell's here, another valued member of the Mafia. Hi, guys, and guest. Yep, there's going to be a few of those. David Hackett. It's Friday, guys. Hopefully, Moen is recovering well and okay. Maybe you guys got a report today. I didn't get one today, but when I chatted with him yesterday, he seemed to feel like he came out of his procedures okay, but he's not going to have results back for quite a while. And we need more of a firsthand report from him. He's probably watching us live right now. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that keep your prayers on him. He's got a lot of stuff going in his health life, and we're here to support it in any way we can. Thank you, David Hackett. Thank you for the comment. The Big Lubbock says, hello, Big 12 Mafia. Good to see you, Lubbock. Let's see here.
Dude, the Big Lubbock, what the heck happened to Texas Tech last night, man? Come
all
on.
of the Big 12 yesterday was horrible.
I'll tell you what. Oh, man, I had them going pretty far.
Yeah, BYU killed like 200,000 ESPN brackets yesterday.
I know.
It was brutal. Absolutely brutal. Glenn Lumen's here. Good to have you here, Glenn, all the way from the Philippines. Says good morning from the Philippines. It appears the whole world is in court. Well, BYU, Cincy, UCF, and Houston, now it has SMU to that, be the last G5s after the A4 or into the A4 ranks. What do you guys think about that?
What a great question. Yeah, go ahead, Immaculate.
Well, easy answer is no. And since the way you asked it, it makes it an easy answer. Since you didn't ask when.
Yeah, right.
Because when would be the hard part to answer. But eventually, do I think so? Yes.
Wait, yes to which? There will be the last ones, or they won't?
No, that there will be more. Sorry.
There will be more. That's okay.
There will be more.
Clarifying. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that there will be more if you want to consider it an A4, certainly. Right. I think the more teams are going to jump, but I think that it's going to actually move to an A3.
Yeah.
The A3 is going to happen. And in the A3, I don't think there's going to be any more call-ups to the A3. But in an A4, in other words, a watered-down ACC after all these teams jump, right. Yeah, I think that the ACC is going to backfill with like USF, for example, and some other schools. So I think more schools are going to get in the A4, but it's not going to really be an A4. Call it an A3.5.
Completely agree. That's exactly where I'm at with it. I'm not sure what the final number would be. We've heard anyone from 60 to 68 teams, even 72. So there's lots out there, but it's starting to form. Stuff is moving now, and we have a lot of stuff to look forward to, and we're glad you're here with us so we can go through this and talk about it tonight. Jan Holk, all the way from Slovenia, says, hey, all. Jan, we hope you're feeling better. We hope you're getting some rest. We're glad you're here, but your health is really important, buddy. We don't want you getting sick or anything. Coy says, hi, all. Good to have you, Coy.
What's up, Coy?
Coy's represented well on the Peek Around the Corner, Greg Flugar's show, and I know he's represented us in that regard as well. So, Coy, I want to thank you for everything you do out there for everybody in the social media realm. Scott Schrader, another one of our members, says, hello, Mafia. It's time to rat and roll.
Rat and roll, baby.
Rat and roll. And I tell you what, Rock and Roll didn't reach out to me today about getting on the show, but maybe if we have some time, I'll reach out to him. I love Rock. He's a great guy. Rock Chalk 94 says, hey, guys. Congo is sup, everyone.
Sup?
Another member, Johnny Bard, FSU 91, says, hail, guys. Hail to the Chiefs, I think is what he's tipping to there.
Hail to the Chiefs. Hail to UCF and Florida State. That's Johnny's a mix of both. We got Sean in the house. There's another Noel right here. What's going on, Sean?
Glad to have it. Yeah, it is a big day for Noel fans. Really good. Wow, bang, out of the gut. Look at this, guys. Right off the bat. Coy gifting a membership. That is fantastic. Let's see. I have clapping. I don't have the sound.
We've got a soundboard without Moan. Yeah, that's
no.
Nice.
I've only got clapping.
Hey, we'll do it.
Oh wait, that's not clapping.
Hey, yeah, that's definitely a unique.
How about this? Here's a good one. These are so generic. They're so bad. Moen, where are you?
Where's Moen when we need them? We need that clap.
Coy, I owe you a better super chat response than that. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for gifting the membership. Who did that go to? Did you guys catch who got the membership?
Oh man,
Cat Dean.
Cat Dean, you were gifted a membership, a Big 12 Mafia, College Football Mafia membership. Please thank Coy in chat if you can, and then everybody that's listening, please consider paying those gifts forward. That's how we grow this thing. And boy, we're getting a bunch of people now in the door that we never used to see, and so we're very grateful for everybody being here and sharing that with us. Let's get to a few more people, get shout outs, and we can get into some conversations. Let's see. Jan Hulk says, thanks, Bomber. I will fight on. Good. We want you to, Jan.
Never give up.
He's got the little trick. If you want your comment to be read higher percentage than others, use my name. Just so you know, that's the trick. Hey, College Football Mafia. All right. Jamie Thornton in the house was very active on our show last night. Scott White, Florida basketball. Sorry, basketball is not an SEC thing for sure, especially years Kentucky and Florida choke. What do you guys think about that?
Kentucky loss. That Kentucky loss was ugly. The SEC needs to do something about basketball. Jamie, what's going on? You got all this money? And they got to fix the basketball. I think it speaks to the theory again about going all in on football and leaving behind basketball. I think the SEC's picture perfect.
just like the choice Utah made, just like the choice some of these. If you want to stay relevant, football's the sport, not basketball.
It is true.
Another gifted membership from Cat Dean.
Paying it
just
forward.
Received one.
Nice.
Thank you very much, Cat Dean. Paying it forward. That's good luck, buddy. That is really good luck. And
look at that logo too for Cat Dean. Look at that's awesome right there. It looks like my cat Thomas. Love it.
Well, we appreciate you gifting that membership forward. Who got that one? Who got Cat Dean's membership?
That was Larry the GM, friend of the show.
Larry the GM, who's a recent member. He was just a member, I think. So he's a member again.
Yep.
Yeah, probably did. We appreciate it, Larry, the GM, you being here. Make sure you pay that forward for Cat Dean and thank him very much. And then consider everybody listening, consider doing that themselves. Let's see. I didn't. Okay. All right. Thank you, Immaculate. I didn't know that. That's good to know. Immaculate just gave me a secret. Let's see here. I have to get to a couple that were back here. Let's see. Tony Lawson says Pac-12 is doing well. Yeah, maybe. I don't know what you call doing well.
In the tournament, they're winning some games.
Oh, yeah. Are
they?
Some
money. They're getting a lot of money.
Every game is $2 million. If you didn't know,
every game's $2 million.
Every $2 million is a little bit closer to OSU and WSU not caring about joining the Big 12, I guess.
So that's all going to Oregon State and Wazoo, right?
Washington
all that
State,
money.
yes.
I mean,
all of it
in their control. You got to remember what the judge said about them being in control. And
yeah, but this is one that's post everybody leaving. I guarantee you they're getting all that money.
Well, no one's left yet.
Yeah, he's not wrong. You guys will be gone.
I want my money.
By the time it comes around, no, it won't be there. I'm sorry.
He's right. By the time this money actually makes it to the pack,
you won't see it
anymore.
Crabcakes and football. Another member says, "Hey guys, and go Terps." We're starting to actually get some Maryland Terrapin fans in here. We appreciate that.
I always love that Maryland logo too.
Their helmets are trippy.
So good.
Their helmets are trippy. Let's see here. Preseason champions Ohio says Sankey needs to just zip it when it comes to basketball. His conference is embarrassing in that sport. I'm telling you, none of the big leagues are doing great except for the Pac-12. I would just say that, which is kind of, it's ironic for sure. Are we out? Let me see any more new ones. Here's another one from JBS over Aces, or is it JB's over Aces? Is that Jack's over Aces? It might be Jack's over Aces. Anyway, Immaculate. Yes, Gilbert. So he's talking about Gilbert, Arizona, right?
Yeah, he's in the Valley as well.
Okay. All right.
Valley is representing.
I want to make sure we're getting all these. Nathan Campbell says, Bomber, who are your A3 members question? Let's see. Who are your A3 members question, and who does the Big 12 pick up other than Louisville, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina State? I'm going to let the WildU answer this.
Yeah, I could answer this, but it would take a lot of the fun of the WildU University out if I just give you the answer already.
Well, don't give him any secret stuff. You haven't done a wrap-up show yet, right?
Yeah. So,
right.
So the question here is, who's the Big 12? Who would they pick up other than these schools? So that means that not considering these ones, Louisville, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina State. Obviously, like the hot topic now is Miami. Miami, it would be like the number one choice. Bomber and I have talked about this a lot. Don't think that's really a realistic option.
Right.
At the end of the day, I would put that at less than 1% that the Hurricanes actually jump over to the Big 12. And know there's a lot of disagreement about that. But I would say that's the one team still that like you go for. That's got to be the number one team on your list for the Big 12 if you can get them. And then I forgot if it's Syracuse. Syracuse is a team I would consider. If you could pull that back up, I don't know if Hughes was on it.
Let me see if I can find it again. Hang on one second.
Sorry.
I popped it away.
Okay, so Syracuse is on the list. So I would say Georgia Tech. Cheers.
Georgia Tech drinking game. If you're new to the channel and you're over 21, we do have a drinking game on Friday. Well, pretty much every night now. If you hear Georgia Tech, that's the code word. Go ahead and take a swig. But if you're doing that, do not drive. We're on record, people. You can't go out and drive and then blame it on me. Do not drive, okay? We'll have a lot of fun with it. Anyway, thank you, Nathan. That's a great question and comment. Let's see here. Big Ten fan says Big Ten has not lost yet in the tournament.
It's a true story.
There you go. Great to hear.
Big Ten.
Let's see. Mike Smith says Crabcakes. Yes, please. Football. Yes, please. Terps. No, thanks. Oh, boy. Shots fired. Mike Smith shooting shots. I appreciate that, Mike.
And Mike's team is that West Virginia?
Yeah, it is.
Who's Mike's team? Yeah.
It's West Virginia.
Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of a rivalry there. It's fine.
So Patrick,
another West Virginia fan, Patrick Weigel. You got to correct me. Is it Weigel with a V or W with Weigel? You need to clarify that in chat for me, Patrick. I want to make sure I get it right. Like Daniel Gygax, I asked him how to say that. Anyway, glad to have you here. Let's go Mountaineers, he says. And then last but not least, I'm going to say Chad Bracey saying, yo to you too, Chad Bracey. All right. We know it's going to be a busy night tonight. Let's just lay some groundwork with comments. Anybody can leave a comment. Feel free. All three of us can tag them, and hopefully we'll get back to them if we have time. If you absolutely have to have it read, it'll have to be a super chat. That's just, we're so popular with comments nowadays. I liked, there was Halcyon days when we would have 100 people watching, and I wasn't fighting to get comments, right? I was able to read every one, and I kind of miss those halcyon days. But nowadays we're doing more interactive. We're definitely more responsive. So if you want to do that, make it a super chat. Otherwise, again, consider joining the Big 12 Mafia family. Just go to the main page on YouTube and hit the join button. It's right in the middle of the screen. I'll try to cover that at the end of the show as well. All right, let's see here. So let's start off. Let's just start off with me opening the books on Friday night. So we're talking about Friday night. There's a bunch of stuff going on out in the world right now. What's your top of mind?
Go ahead, Immaculate.
For me, it's still about what happened today. Trying to analyze what went on, what was said, what it could mean for the future. And quite frankly, how you touched upon it a little bit with how people might be a little burnt out on it. But we also have this going on right as the basketball tournament is kicking up. So a lot of sports media doesn't really want to look at this right now. This major case, which could affect not just the ACC, but all of us going forward, because it is essentially challenging what a gore is and how those could be looked at going into the future. This is all going on right now with very little oversight of it, very little reporting. So to me, it was kind of the intrigue and the interesting nature of having such an important sports case going on with actually very little attention on it. So looking at this, I think that those two cases are probably going to get merged. I think we're going to see some other cases probably get filed. They'll get merged. We're going to have one hell of a show going on in North Carolina next week. So look forward to that.
What cases are going to get merged? Could you give us a little bit more detail on those the cases that could get merged together?
The judge even kind of brought up the fact, because the Clemson case that was filed.
Yes.
Well, it's actually the response to the Clemson case.
It is, yeah, because they did a suit, and now this was the countersuit. That's right.
Yep. The North Carolina State Supreme Court put this case on this judge's docket and this court. same judge, same court for both cases. That's not coincidence. They're trying to have this thing merged into one. Now, they're not exactly the same, but he was already in this starting to draw some comparisons with things that he was saying. And, people thinking that this was going to be an unfair court towards the ACC. No, this guy was, at times he was going in hard on the ACC, but at times Florida State couldn't even get out of their own way. Like, he was literally making arguments for them, and they would kind of go off on tangents in other directions. The one thing that I've been talking about a lot about the way that they filed their initial complaint, the ACC, he definitely grilled them on that. And I think we were not vindicated, but just, people who might have thought that that was wrong or it wasn't that big of a deal. I think they're going to have to look at this and go, okay, it was. But kind of ironically enough, the Clemson case being there might keep Florida State from getting primacy and having full jurisdiction in Florida. Whereas if this was just Florida State and ACC, I think Florida State won. And this would be going back to Florida. But with Clemson being involved with this now and having the two cases, I think it just got stuck in North Carolina. So we're going to see. I'm not sure how they merge it. I'm not sure exactly how that goes. But, and also, he did not seem to be very friendly towards the idea of sealing those records, as ESPN wanted. No,
I asked him 3 different times.
I thought that was the one that was going to pass easy. Like, what going in, I was like, I'll probably pass that. Nope,
no,
not at all.
He was very critical about that one particular thing. And I think that's what Doug Rohan focused on at the end. But yeah, we'll come back to that. That is a good point. Crabcakes in football gives it. He's a member, by the way. Gives us another gift membership out there. I appreciate that. Ute, who is this new gift member we got?
Yeah, so Immaculate, who is it right now? Who is the gift member here?
We got Chad Bracey. He's
Chad Bracey,
friend of the show, comes quite often. He's now
absolutely.
In the ring. You can check out that GT video.
Yeah, go watch that after we're done here tonight. It's a great video. Crabcakes, make sure you give that thank you in chat. And then everybody, again, if you want to pay it forward, that's always what we support here. All right, we got another super chat.
What does Moan do again? Winner, right? Winner. That's the best we can do tonight.
I'm telling you, all you people, I'm going to write your names down, and I'll have Moen do something special for you, okay? I'll even do something. If it's not too off the wall, I'm willing to make some. I'm not going to sing like Greg does, okay? I'm not going to tell anybody I'm singing anything, but there might be something I could do to sort of tip the hat for those new memberships. I really appreciate Crabcakes doing that, though. That was really cool. We have another super chat, our first super chat, actually, from Ryan Thomas for $1.99. Says, if the case goes forward, look for UNC to jump in. So let's just start right there. UNC is a very interested party. We all know that. Their administration came out in the last couple of days and have just been hammering the behavior of the ACC and the way that this is sort of devolved and they've lost their value, right? So, I'm going to start with you. So let's talk UNC. What do they do next?
They're going to watch what's going on right now. They're going to lie in wait because they've got, for a fact that they've got that lawsuit just on campus in somebody's desk area. They're just waiting to file that sucker. Like they're ready to roll on this. It's just timing wise when the right time to strike it. So yeah, I mean, if they could parlay it, I just think and just add it to the Clemson and Florida State cases, like Immaculate just claimed too. Maybe that adds more momentum, or else just another way, maybe making a different legal argument in a different manner too, just to kind of strike a different angle of this whole thing too. You guys, this is a mass mutiny, right? Mutiny, and like the captain right now is the captain of the ACC, and it's coming from all angles. Shots fired from all angles. UNC is going to be firing shots. Miami's going to be firing shots, and like the more mutinous folks on board, just the more messy this gets, the more ugly it gets. So I don't know if they even need to necessarily join up in the lawsuit. Maybe just filing its own lawsuit, maybe essentially does get joined up. Like not with that intention, but just bring more pressure against the ACC. But it is a mad mutiny right now on this ACC ship.
Immaculate, what do you think about that particular point?
Yeah, I think that they've probably talked with their lawyers, especially when what the head of their board of trustees had to say. I mean, it was just straight shots fired at their AD. I saw someone, I don't remember who exactly, but someone was saying how there's 3 factions within North Carolina at the time. I
think last night, wasn't that?
Was that you guys? Was that on your show?
I think that was on our show last night.
I think I saw it there too.
Right? Justin mentioned there was 3
I think he's right. I think Justin was definitely right that there are 3 factions in there, and the way he put it is probably very true. What the AD is with on that? Probably the smallest faction. And so both the other 2 factions are probably looking at him like he's a hindrance. So I think we might see him go. He might be looking for another job right now, or he might just let him go. But I think that we're going to see them be prepared to jump in as soon as we get some word from the judge on this. They're just going to want to see. And there's no reason to jump in before they hear from him and what he actually determines at this point.
Right. Just to follow up on that, there's this comment from Minnesota Seminoles. I think it's Minnesota, who's a member. We appreciate your membership. If cases dismissed in North Carolina, I think Phillips will be dismissed, meaning the conference commissioner for the ACC. ACC will hire somebody to move ACC into the future. What do you guys think about that?
I think the ACC is totally screwed with this. I don't think it's Phillips' fault. I don't think there's anybody else that's jumping on this changing the momentum. I just think that it is what it is. That could very much be in play, though, firing Phillips. But who are you going to bring that's going to change the momentum on this thing? The problem is the money. Who's going to bring another $40 million in revenue? Nobody. That's impossible. There's no way to change.
There's none that are taking it to 70 either. I mean, if you want to talk pure numbers,
like, what are you going to?
Yeah.
I mean, even Brett Yormark couldn't do anything in the situation. Like, you're kind of stuck. It's like the pack. I mean, George K is always out there if you want Klyavkov. But I mean, the pack.
Right.
I don't know. It's tough. The ACC's in a pickle. There's no way out of it. There's no way out of it.
I want to welcome to the floor right now with special delivery from. Where are you at tonight? At home? You in Alabama right now, Jeff? You're muted. Or at least we can't hear you.
Yep, in Alabama.
Now, there we go. In Alabama. Okay. So let me introduce this guy. I know he's wearing an orange shirt he's got that big Y behind him. That's the most important color, blue and white. What's that say on your shirt?
It says Alabama. It's actually red, but my lighting must be a little weird.
Yeah, you look like you're, I don't know, maybe a little.
I thought maybe you're switching over to Texas there for a second.
They did look orange.
A little burnt orange.
Burnt orange. Anyway.
No way. Speaking of which, I'm actually working up a little list of sort of who are the bad guys, who are to blame for the current state of, what's, the Super 2 and what's happening.
Right. So you must have Texas as a good guy, right?
Oh, they are enemy number one. Well, actually, enemy number one is just the culture, the me versus we, the get it now versus delayed gratification. But as far as, entities who can be blamed, Texas is number one. And I'm sorry, but the Big Ten and Fox is number 2.
It's got to be Notre Dame number 1. Everybody else is after it.
I mean, Big Ten likes to pick on Notre Dame. Big Ten with Notre Dame, it's interesting. They're like the rich guy who wants the girl who just doesn't want him because he's a rich snob, but he keeps flashing more and more money at him, more and more money, but she just doesn't want him. That's what Notre Dame is. And I keep seeing, we're ratcheting around. Notre Dame's going to have to join the Big Ten. They're going to have to. I don't think they care about the money. I mean, they care about their autonomy. Yeah. They care about being special and different. And I think a lot of them still hate the Big Ten. I mean, I may be wrong in the long term. They may eventually join, but I mean, there's some bad blood with the Big Ten sort of not wanting them forever. And it's interesting history to look at.
If your perspective is that it's real quick on that, just wanted to jump in. Sorry, but if your perspective on that is that everything that is going through is bad, which is a viable perspective, I think you'd have to say that Notre Dame is not on the hit list for that. They have been staunchly opposing everything that is going on and very traditionalist and so I agree with Jeff. Like if that's the list he's making, Notre Dame would be near the bottom of that.
That's easy to say when they have their own vote. They vote like a conference.
Yeah,
they get their own tournament payouts that you don't have to share them with other people in the conference, and they have autonomy in everything they do.
But they didn't make up all this stuff. They didn't decide
I'm not saying
to do
they
it.
made it up.
They just fought for their place in it. Like they just did what they had to do.
I still think that could be a linchpin. Anyway, let's not get on that. We're talking about this other stuff. Jeff,
Notre Dame's going to bend the knee. Notre Dame's going to bend the knee to the Big Ten.
Jeff,
it's just a matter of time.
Everybody wants.
Hey, he's got it going. Sometimes when it's going, you got it going.
Moen's not here, so someone's got to say Notre Dame's got to bend the knee. Right?
Okay, all right. I know that's how you feel. Now everybody.
They are going.
If you think this is bad, just imagine if Moen was here. We'd be
all right
through the roof.
Let me get control of this train. Jeff, thank you for joining us tonight. We got about a half hour that we wanted to sit down with you and kind of really dive in to what's going on with this Florida State ACC stuff. Why don't you introduce everybody? Tell everybody what you do, and then you're welcome to jump into analysis if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff Fuller, just a college football fan. BYU first and foremost. Graduated from there way back when. Did come to Alabama for medical school. So I'm a physician. I do vitreoretinal surgery, which is operating on the back of the eye, which lends me zero credence into my college football knowledge. But live here in Tuscaloosa, and I've lived in Iowa City. I've lived in Baton Rouge. I've lived in Georgia, not too far from Athens. And then obviously BYU. Grew up in California. UCLA was my first love as a young teenager before I fell in love with BYU football and eventually became a student there. But that's sort of the background. My wife's an Alabama graduate. I've got some ties here. As far as analysis, I'm not a big blow-by-blow legal analyst with what's happening in the courts. I know there was some meeting today in Mecklenburg County, and I didn't follow too closely what's going on there today as far as being up to date on it. But, I think that's all going to play itself out. I think more schools are going to sue the ACC and UNC. I wouldn't be surprised. Miami, I think there's a list of the Magnificent Seven have all explored or are currently exploring, how to get out of the grant of rights. You got their legal teams on it. So we'll see how much pressure they can put collectively on the ACC and what's going to happen. So
Immaculate,
Jeff, Go ahead. You're just going to jump in here. So Jeff really is an excellent data person here and an analyst here, and he likes to dig into the data. You've probably seen that on social media and elsewhere. And I like to call Jeff, he doesn't like to be called this, but the doctor of data here too. That's my nickname for Jeff. But really, he's somebody I love to bounce ideas off, financial ideas, data ideas off. So he's really a trusted source that we really trust on this channel. So happy to have you on and having these discussions.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I dig into anything, that's a metric, that's a number, quantifiable, brand, attendance, social media, followers on all the social media platforms, TV numbers. I think that's probably the most misunderstood TV. It's a very relevant and very important is how many people are watching you, how many eyeballs do you draw. But it's so messy when you have two different teams playing and both teams get equal credit for the viewership where it may be, Texas versus BYU, vast majority of those eyeballs that are fans of either team are going to be Texas because it's a massive brand. It's a blue blood. It's in a massive state. And I'm throwing my own school under the bus on that one. TV data, you've got the two different teams. You've got what window they're in, which day of the week, which channel they're on, which is a huge factor. Are they, what's riding on that game? Is it two ranked teams? A lot of casual college football fans are going to be watching that to see, is that going to affect their team's ranking? Are they going to be able to jump into the rankings because one of those teams loses or vault over one of those teams? Is there a trip to the conference championship game on the line? is a trip to the playoff on the line? You're going to get massive viewership for something like that. So it's not a clean metric by any stretch of the imagination, and very, very much tracks with how a team is doing, and are they ranked, and are they making some waves on the national scene that year. Like Virginia Tech, as we've seen Zach Miller's numbers the last 3 years. I mean, Virginia Tech's they got a lot of fans. They've been relevant. They're a good TV draw in general, but the last 3 years they've been pitiful, near the bottom of all P5 programs. I've seen your numbers about the last 3 years, and I think they're in the bottom 5 of, definitely the bottom 10 of all Power 5 programs with their average viewership. So yeah, it's interesting. They've just been placed on the ACC network, which gets a 0 each week. Go ahead, Nathan.
That's okay. I just got a couple of super chats. We want to make sure those people are recognized. First, your good friend and mine, Ryan Thomas, $1.99. He's also a member. He says, "I'm Sankey is enemy number 1." So that goes back to the conversation we were just having. I don't think anybody would take Sankey out of their top 5 for sure. He's definitely was a player.
Yeah,
let me get this one.
Plenty of blame to go around for sure.
I want to be part of that book, is what I was going to say. When you throw that analysis together, I want to be part of that. So does you. I know you wants to too.
Oh yeah.
You want to be bad guys or good guys in the book?
Oh, I love being a bad guy.
I love being a bad guy too.
Yeah,
Utes are bad guys.
Ute. So he's bad guy just by sheer nature of who he is.
Exactly. Tony Lawson, here's a super chat that Immaculate wanted to take. Go ahead, Immaculate.
Oh, well, I mean, as you can see, he has our friend in chat, the Gopher, saying that Iowa City, that's a red flag. I actually was going to ask you about your own experience there, being from Iowa myself and having been to Iowa City multiple times, kind of what your thoughts were as, dare I say, an outsider in there. And
yeah,
I've heard a lot of different opinions, so I'm kind of just curious what you thought.
Sure. I mean, Iowa is the stable, strong fan base, people who love it, the heartland. If there's a state that's the heartland, Iowa could be argued that it is it, along with a few others. But I lived there for 2 years doing my retinal fellowship, and I was busy, learning how to do surgery and how to take care of patients. But got to 3 or 4 different games. That was my youngest son's first college football games. Was going to, they were 5 and 6 at the time, going to Kinnick Stadium there, and just enjoying the atmosphere. And the Big Ten does it right as far as most of the schools and the tailgating scene and the fans just being there to support their teams, even when they're not, at the top of the list. So I think most Big 12 people as well can appreciate that. A lot of Big 12 schools are that way. Get there, support your team. And at that time, I think Steve Alford was the basketball coach, and Kurt Ferentz, of course, was the football coach.
He's been there a while.
Has been forever. So this is, how long ago was this? This was 2003 to 2005, I believe.
That was before the wave too, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Way before the wave. That building was not even
that building was not even close to being there yet. So.
Nope.
But
good point. Jeff, I got an important question here. Okay, so what's the best tailgating environment? What's the worst that you've seen in your college football travels?
It's not fair. He's at Alabama right now.
Well, he's at Alabama, and but yeah, he's seen a lot.
As far as visually, obviously BYU fan. I'm not there, taking full experience. It's hard to beat LSU for a night game. The tailgating scene goes all day long. They're cooking up the huge pots of jambalaya. You got the gumbo pots. You got and just walking through there is whatever you're wearing. People invite you over, come eat, come drink with us. Ole Miss, on the Grove, been down there for when BYU was playing. Some frat boys, were sort of singling us out, but people were otherwise very cordial, and just how they do it there with, they lay out the fine china. People get their chandeliers, put them inside their tents. It's a whole different type of tailgating there and there. As far as the nicest fans I've run into, it was Nebraska and Notre Dame visiting those locales. They were, we just beat, Nebraska on this Hail Mary, and not a bad word was said to us in the stadium afterwards. Nebraska's been reeling for years and even had been at that point, and just very, very nice people, and just like, hey, good job, you guys got a great team.
So Jeff.
Yep.
There's a good question from Chad Bracey, one of our members. He says Big 12 wouldn't want to merge with the ACC. None of us think that they should merge with the ACC. We've been talking about just taking the best pieces and then discarding the rest. What is your count of schools that will eventually make it into the Big 12?
I mean, I think Yormark has 4 slots that he wants to fill with the best brands, but I think if magically a couple brands were available that he didn't think were available, like Clemson or Miami, I think there's almost zero chance Clemson, that they're going to be on the table. Miami, maybe, in a strange world, there is an option there. But yeah, I think NC State, Virginia Tech, Pitt, and Louisville are the 4 that sort of make the most sense, just like the 4 corner schools made a lot of sense to get gobbled up into the Big 12. Those 4 just seem like the least likely to get picked up by their own merits into, the Big 10 or the SEC. The wild card there is, will Virginia Tech be a partner with Virginia? Will NC State have to be, an albatross around the neck of UNC, and will that get them into the SEC or the Big 10? We shall see.
The Wolfpack backpack. That's what that's known as.
That's the new nickname we're trying to
Wolfpack
coin.
backpack.
Yeah.
And more power to them if they can make it happen. I don't see it. I don't think you just absorb another brand that's not quite accretive or additive to your value. But maybe UNC is that desired that they'll make that happen. We'll see.
You know what? The more digging into this, I'm not convinced anymore that the Big 12 is going to expand by 4, based on the same thing that you just mentioned, accretiveness. Are they? In other words, is that team adding to the pie for everybody? Are you making more money by adding that team, and not making less money? Because that happens if you add the wrong team. And digging into some of the analysis, I'm not sure even the 4 schools that you listed that they're all accretive. Surprisingly.
Yeah.
To the current Big 12 iteration, I think 2 of them are, but I'm not sure 2 of the other ones are.
Who would you put there?
I can't give that.
We've got those locked up members videos. We do.
Oh, member. Okay.
Yeah. Let me bring those up really
University.
quick.
Yeah.
Let me bring that up really quick. Hang on. Give me a second. Let me bring that up so everybody knows what we're talking about. All right, why don't you tell these guys what WildU University is?
Yeah, it's a way to look at realignment candidates through the data, and looking at the data through a model basis to see who is a really good candidate for a conference and really who's a pretender, who's the contenders and who's the pretenders, based on the information that we know is relevant and available. For the Big 12 model with Wazoo and Oregon State, took what Brett Yormark had said on BYU TV from last year, and also what Big 12 Karen had said in an interview fairly recently too, and applied data metrics to those models we know that are important to the Big 12, and then throwing it into a matrix model to see really who scores out good and who scores out low. And the key idea is anytime you look at one of those videos, who's scoring above average? That's a real candidate. Below average it's a little more hairy. So Big 12 models developed, and Oregon State and Wazoo are the first 2 candidates we're looking at.
You want to talk about that, Jeff, at all?
Yeah, very nice. I would love to hear what your sort of metrics are. I remember I've seen some of your videos about the ACC schools and other schools that may fit in the Big 10 and sort of what the Big 10 values. And I agree, you got to adjust that model for the Big 12. I'm sure there'll be some of the same things, but obviously, the academic prowess maybe, and how much of a research institution are you? I don't think Yormark and a lot of the Big 10 president or Big 12 presidents, I think they care, they want good products, but I don't think it's a deal breaker if you're not AAU
Exactly.
or not high on the research. I think there's a lot of value in NC State based on their sort of enrollment, their alumni levels, where they're located in that state. It's a big state, and if you can get in there for recruiting, for TV eyeballs, I know they haven't really been a massively successful program. I think they only have one 10-win season in their entire history, or double-digit win in their entire history. I could be wrong. Maybe there's someone else out there that said that wasn't quoting it right, but I believe I've seen that around before. But as far as all sports, which athletic directors like, they're pretty legit. They've got a lot of good programs that maybe aren't your football or basketball. They did win last night, and the UNC men advancing in the tournament, and they've had some good runs in the past. But as far as a football product, they've never really broken through. So it'll be interesting to see. So their blue blood rankings, on Winsipedia and such, isn't going to be very high. And I think they're possibly a sleeping giant that has more value than maybe the numbers will show. Whereas someone like Pitt, amazing history, their blue blood ranking is going to be a lot higher. They've got great research and such, but are their best days behind them? And they may come out in some of the analyses as the better brand or better product, more desirable, but I'm not sure.
Immaculate, I want you to take this comment from Big Mick.
Jeff.
And really quick, Jeff, thank you for joining us tonight. It was really nice for you to offer your time. We know how busy you are being a doctor, and then you have how many kids again?
I forget.
It's a lot.
Fortunately,
it's a lot.
Fortunately, I have 10 fingers. 10 fingers, so I have 10 kids.
He's dedicated to his wife, a great family. Glad to have you here. Big Mick, this is for you, Immaculate. The NCAA is going to create a power league for the elite football institutions to share revenue while remaining in their current conference. So in other words, everybody stays the conferences they're in, but they take the football, just the football programs, and elevate them to this. First, do you think that's going to happen, Immaculate? And if you did, kind of how do you think that would go together?
No, I wouldn't go so far as to say there's no chance of that happening. We're in uncharted territory. Could something like that possibly come about? Yes. I think that's largely going to depend upon how things go between these conferences and the NCAA. A big issue right now is governance. Who's going to govern? Who's going to have the power? Who can create rules? If you give them a lot of governance, things don't have to change a whole lot from the way they are right now. They already have the autonomous conferences system set up. I do think FBS is going to break away from FCS. I do think we're going to see Division I split in half. The FCS has their own meetings. They're looking at going the opposite way. But something like this, I get from like a fan perspective, like people see this come out and they kind of gravitate towards it and like, this sounds awesome. This has got to be it. But you got to remember these conferences, these aren't pro sports leagues. Right. Where the members, that's what they do. This is a small thing about those universities. That largely what they are, their culture or on-campus culture in between the schools in these conferences, I can especially attest to the Big Ten, but I'm sure with the others as well, is having that competition between them. Even if win or lose, whatever, they still actually want to have those competitions together. It brings their alumni together. It gives them reasons for meetings, whatnot. So, no, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen.
We didn't add a time horizon on there either, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, things could work out to where that could happen. I just don't
not
see
next year.
Not in this phase we're in right now. I don't think.
Right. Jeff, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I've actually long envisioned and dreamed of a world where just football could be taken out of the NCAA and, the Title IX world.
Right.
I mean, Title IX, because there's no women's equivalent of football, and you have 80, 85, 83, 85 scholarships, however many there are, there's no other sport that's close to that. And it's such a money maker in all the other sports. Men's basketball makes a lot of money at a few schools, maybe isn't a money loser at most others, but almost all the money is coming from football, whether it's, from the media, from the contracts, from the bowl payouts, from your ticket sales, et cetera, your ad sales, gear sales. Football runs the ship, no question. But, Title IX has killed a lot of men's sports. Men's wrestling nationwide took a huge hit.
Right.
A lot of programs shut down. That men's soccer, several other sports were really hurt when Title IX was enforced. But it just seems like if we could just take football out of the scholarship equality and make it its own non-NCAA entity, and all the schools can still participate. You don't have to create just the top 25 or 45 best schools, but just make football a not NCAA sport somehow. And I'm not a lawyer. It's probably not legal to do that, but it would sure solve a lot of problems. And I think would make college sports in general, better and wouldn't hurt the other sports that are needlessly hurt by a rule that's trying to help. Title IX is trying to help create equality, but it's the law of unintended consequences is always important.
Employment will probably take care of that.
So
So
when they
Title
become
IX's
employees.
going out anyway. So
Yeah. Let's just stick on this. You go ahead. I know you had a follow up.
Yeah, so like that, I agree with the assessment. And the big kicker here is moving to employment status, right? These aren't going to be student athletes anymore. They're going to be employees of the university or a conference in the future. And that's going to have ramifications for Title IX. They're going to get worked out in the courts. I think ultimately, though, because its own entity, it's its own beast, football, that is going to break away. Like, let's be honest about this. It's all going to the point where how can you maximize the most revenue? That is what's going to happen. And right now, it's good for some conferences, power too, but you can make it better by commercializing college football or privatizing college football, if you want to say it that way. And by breaking away and forming a quasi super league with 50 teams, 60 teams, 40 teams, probably 50 in that range and stuff of the best brands, you really are maximizing the most revenue for those schools, not for everybody else, but for those schools. And really, that's just the way that business works. And that is probably going to move that way, guys. I really see it that way.
The tax-free status is going to be a hanger-oner, though, for a while.
One thing you should really research into if you're going to do this, though, and make a statement like that is go into the measurement of donations to the school based upon wins and loss records. You go do a thing that you guys are talking about with like that big league with just the best teams. Well, guess what? A bunch of them are going to become losing teams. Watch what happens to the donations when they're all of a sudden the kick around team. We're thinking, oh, but it's in this big league that matters so much more. Not really. If your fan base, if your supporting donation base is not hyped up and excited, they're not giving money. So part of when we see these kind of boosted up wins and loss records for some teams in certain leagues, it also has a lot to do with donations that they get, and that's a lot of money. That's why the ADs are going after the NILs right now and trying to bring all that money back in. It's a major contributing factor to their decision making. So if you're not looking at this model that you're talking about and trying to look at how that might affect donations to the school, you're not really getting the whole picture, in my opinion.
And I love that you say that, Immaculate. It's an interesting world where, we have the SEC. You've got 6 blue blood programs there, five, 6 programs that are legitimate blue bloods of the sport. Mm-hmm. They can't all stay at that level. There's only going to be one SEC champion each year. So, you've got Texas and Oklahoma coming in who are new blue bloods. They're probably not going to be winning at the same level. Or if they do, then Georgia and Alabama are way down. Tennessee, LSU, who are right at that next to the blue blood status. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And I think it's problematic because there's this Sportico is it's a website that I know WildU uses a lot to look at revenue data and where people are allocating their revenue, where they're making their money, where they're spending their money. They also have a podcast that just started within the last several months. One of their first guests was the guy who he's been in this media college football world his whole life, and he's frustrated because he says that all these mini fiefdoms of the conferences are so focused on one-upping each other that they're losing so much money. He says the value of college football is double what is currently being paid out in these media contracts. The true media value, if it's maximized, if it's organized right, if it's planned right, is double what is currently, scheduled to be paid out even in these new media contracts, even, with the Big Ten making so much in their new contracts. So it's like this, everyone's getting a little smaller portion of the pie, or a little bigger portion of the pie, but the pie is probably going to be shrinking as we go into 2 super leagues and some of these other products on the West Coast or in the Midwest that aren't sort of included in the big boys club. Are those going to contract a little bit? And the big boys are going to contract, like you said. Texas A&M, how many 7 and 5 seasons can they handle? They just spent $77 million to get rid of Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, they're on deep pockets, though. They're like SMU, so they're not going anywhere.
Well, I mean, right?
Eventually,
it matters. They want to win.
Well, no, of course they want to win. I'm just saying they're not going to drop off any lists that are made up about the super leagues.
Sure, but their fan base, you may have tons of rich donors who are still going to support your program,
right?
But the eyeballs, the people who buy the shirts, who go to the games, are they shrinking their fan bases by having these super leagues and fewer top dogs? I mean, it's just simple math.
I think it will. If you consolidate up, you're definitely going to cut out almost 2/3. You're going to cut out almost 2/3 of the college football watching public by only doing 40, 50 teams.
And you're shrinking the pie, which that's not good for the overall health of college football.
Agreed.
Maybe short-term gain, but a long-term loss.
You're shrinking the pie, but you're taking a bigger chunk of the pie too. So it's actually more. It's a short-term proposition. Short, in the medium term per school. Over the long term, the 20, 25, 30-year health of the sport is bad, though. But over the 10, 15, 20-year range, it's going to be really lucrative for your Ohio States and Bama.
Oh, yeah.
You did it.
We got a few more minutes here with Jeff. Let's try to get some more of these big picture realignment questions out. Jeff, we really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Tawtown Hawk. I guess help me. How do you say that?
Tawtown Hawk.
It's okay. I think he said it was
Taunton, wasn't
Tacoma? No, Wichita. He's from Wichita. He's a Wichita Jayhawk fan.
Okay. It was Hawk. He did tell us one time. I was expecting you guys to remember.
I did. Anyway. Wichita. Ta is the end of Wichita. I did remember.
So
Tawtown.
All right. 24 teams. You all of a sudden have multiple micro-regionality groups. 4 corners, Texas, Plains, and East Coast. And I would throw, 4 corners would include the West Coast. Multiple games in each zone. What do you guys think about that format by itself?
Now, is he talking about a Big 12 expanded to 24, or is he talking about either of the other leagues, the Big 10?
I don't know. I think, what do you guys think?
I think all of them, probably.
Yeah.
What if they all went to 24 and there's like an A3?
Okay.
Go to 72 teams. 72 teams.
Yeah, I mean, that at 72 teams, you get, you get all your major, your major brands in there, and I think at that point you could expand the pie if a few are cut out. They're already cut out right now and still sort of making do. BYU. I'm a big BYU fan. BYU has been able to build what they've built without getting a big media payout, without getting a big conference payout, and still, have a loyal fan base, have put a good product on the field. More often than not, it's been a few down years compared to, obviously the 80s and 90s, but it can be done if you have a committed fan base and a committed institution. But it seems like the deck is getting stacked more and more against the little guy, and can they break through? And then you've got your Oregon State, Washington State. They've been the little guy, but they've been getting big boy money for a long time. What have they done with it? I know they're demographically challenged. I don't want to beat them up too much. They've got amazing fans, great people. They've come after me a few times on Twitter when I've sort of pointed out that if you're looking at the top brands and why no one has invited Oregon State and Washington State, it's because they're demographically challenged. It's part of the country that doesn't care as much about college football. They're little brothers within their own states, and they just don't have a huge, massive fan base to sort of make them more valuable. And it's just, and that's even with getting the big boy money. They haven't been able to break through and build that fan base to where it's, so good they can't ignore you. Isn't that the Phil Knight?
Right.
Be so good
Yep.
they can't ignore you.
Yep.
They've never, they've had good years, and they've got, they've broken through occasionally, but never risen. The crime rising to the top has never happened for them.
On that,
that's sort of why they're being left behind.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and finish what you were saying, Jeff.
Yeah, I was just saying that's part of why they've, they're getting left behind, is because there's, they've proven that even with the benefit of getting subsidized, of not being additive financially to the Pac-12, they haven't been able to break through on a consistent basis and build the fan base and get the attendance and raise the money. And so, that it just is what it is. And is that going to be happening to Wake Forest, to Boston College, to Syracuse in the ACC? Is this the contraction that we're seeing? Again, I don't like it for those fan bases, for those schools, but it's sort of where things have been going, and it's just the reality of the world we're living in.
Just to clarify, the original question said 4 corners on it, so he was talking about the Big 12. Mike Smith corrected me. I didn't think about it that hard, so sorry about that. Whoever made that comment, Mike, thanks for clarifying. One more question for Jeff and you, Immaculate. I want you guys to drill down on this if you can. Mr. Monkey says, has Jeff stated which 4 ads he would like in the Big 12? Your personal opinion.
Yeah, sure. Notre Dame, Florida State, Clemson, and who else? UNC. Yeah, that's an easy one.
It's an open-ended question. You can answer it any way you want.
Yeah, so that's the dream world. That's never going to happen, obviously.
So give us the reality.
Reality. Yeah, it's got to be those 4 I mentioned in the real world. I mean, if we're putting Miami in there as a possibility, I think you got to pick them number 1. Just that brand. Yeah, they don't have a consistent fan base. They don't fill their stadium, but it's Miami, and they can recruit, and they have that upside brand value. So, yeah, you got to put them there. But I think NC State, Virginia Tech have to be the top 2 of the realistic candidates, because they're from big population states. They've got strong, solid fan bases. And then after that, Louisville and then Pitt would be my order.
Immaculate.
I mean, that sounds fine. I don't know. I don't really look at it as like what I want. What if everything was what I wanted, realignment wouldn't even be happening. None of it's really been good for Iowa. So I don't know. I just try and analyze what I think is possible. And I think he's right. I think the best of what's possible for them is North Carolina State and Virginia Tech. We were talking earlier about North Carolina State. They are, in my opinion, the perfect candidate for the Big 12. I see a lot of people with their ratings of positives over what they lost versus what they gained. I don't think that stuff matters. We haven't even really seen what the Big 12 is capable of. We haven't seen what numbers are going to be. It's an entirely new model. This really hasn't existed before. So everyone's talking about old laws and old rules and things that used to apply and how we value, and I just don't see it as being all that relevant right now. But I do like what he says in terms of these schools. I'm like Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, Louisville, that threesome right there. I really don't care what you add to them. That's a tremendous addition, because those are all schools that are going to be a part of what the Big 12 is becoming, and that's an across the board, equal kind of parity conference where it's just going to be a lot of competition across the board. You bring in Miami, I guess, if we're talking, maybe. But I also think that just, I don't know. I just don't see it much as a fit. I think if I was to throw in another one there, and you were talking about markets and everything, I'd say GT. Pitt.
Georgia Tech. Did you say Georgia Tech?
For
Just
some,
clarifying for that, Georgia Tech.
To get you into Georgia, there's a lot of great recruits there. Oh,
there you go, Jeff.
Crap.
I love it. The
Nice,
Jeff can. I love it.
Nice.
That's
the
fantastic.
protein over there.
Absolutely. Keep going, Immaculate. Sorry.
That was good. No, I don't know, but that kind of threw me off. I was like, "Is he having a smoothie over here?"
Exactly.
Nice. Excellent. I've had some.
Drink whatever you want.
Jeff, the Jeff guy.
All right. Were you done, Immaculate?
I mean, pretty much. Like I said,
Okay.
he was right. I agree, and I understand why Big 12 folks would want Miami. I mean, if they're willing to come, you take them. It's not even a question. It's just an immediate answer. But I think that folks need to give this new Big 12 a chance to show what it could possibly be. People think they're not going to have people watching. I've never cared that much about the Big 12. I care more about the Big 12 now than I've probably ever cared about. And that's because I'm interested in this new thing and how that's going to be. So we'll see.
Well, Ute.
Yeah, I think that you throw Georgia Tech in. Cheers to that, and then also Syracuse in the mix too.
Get me in trouble.
Schools that you guys have already mentioned. The one thing that I wanted to bring up before Jeff departs here is Virginia Tech.
Is that a Clemson koozie I just saw?
Hey, you know what? I was on the Clemson train for weeks and months and everything.
He's on brand. He's on brand.
And so, you know what? Clemson always had value, and just showing that off a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Like
all right, keep going, you.
All right, so Virginia Tech. Let's talk about Virginia Tech real quick. So Virginia Tech, viewership-wise, in recent history, has been really bad, right? Virginia Tech, like historical football success, has been marginal. They had Michael Vick. We remember that, but it's not been strong necessarily. Basketball, not been that great either. And then, if you look at brand metrics, why is Virginia Tech such a strong candidate in our minds? That's my question to Jeff.
Sure. Have you seen Enter Sandman?
Yeah.
I've tried to drill this one in, Jeff. Go at it.
That's why. I mean, you're a Ute fan, you understand home field advantage. You understand passionate fans that just pack every seat of a stadium. Most schools don't have that. Even in the Power Five, most schools don't have that. ACC, there's Florida State, they don't pack it out unless they're really good. Clemson does. Clemson and Virginia Tech are probably the two that just are the most supportive of their teams. I may be leaving someone out. That's a big conference, but when that place is rocking, that's a big stadium. And, that's, Clemson, I think, is the biggest stadium in the ACC. That having a big stadium and filling it with people who care, that
it's great on TV.
It's great on TV, but it also is representative of a fan base that's going to support their team. It's representative of more people who can't be there, who are outside maybe tailgating or watching on TV. So it's that. And I hate to put that much value into just attendance and how passionate the people are. A lot of people say, big city, teams, we have so many better things to do with our time than to go to the Rose Bowl game or to go to a Miami game. Yeah.
How much does that get you as far as the value, though? Like in NFL world and stuff, like the LA Rams are one of the most valuable teams, but they have a crappy home field advantage, right? And the small market teams have crazy fans, but really the valuations aren't there. How much of that is in our mind versus actually, hey, I'm a media company, I'm willing to pay $35 million to bring Georgia Tech on and make it accretive?
Yeah. Again, they have the potential. I think comparing to NFL teams is difficult because, your big city teams, Dallas, the New York teams, the LA teams, those are the ones who have all the value in the NFL. So it's hard to compare. I know we sort of want to model it after that and say, well, this is what makes them valuable. For for college football, yes, viewership is important, but again, it's messy. You know, I've actually had communications with Zach Miller, and he said he's wondering, you know, does he start taking conference network games and just, you know, not really giving them, or the big thing that's come in is the Big Ten has started to report their numbers. And so you look at Zach Miller's numbers over the last 3 years as the Big Ten network has started to report some numbers, while the other conference networks don't. You know, the Big Ten teams are artificially inflated because they're not getting a zero for those games. And yeah, there's a lot of big fan bases and there are a lot of people who watch, but I promise you there are a lot of people watching, you know, Ole Miss play Kentucky. That may be a SEC network game that comes up as a zero in Zach Miller's model. There are a lot of people watching, but for whatever reason, the SEC has decided not to make it Nielsen rated. And maybe they're not as big as the Big Ten networks, but I know they're not zero. So again, using TV numbers to say these are the valuable brands and these aren't, very, very small part of the picture. It's important, but I just don't think we're seeing what we think we're seeing with a lot of those numbers.
On top of that, too, wouldn't you say, like, ACC schools in general, like, people say it's such a good deal that they have with ESPN. I don't think it is at all. They get pushed to ESPN2 more than anyone else. And then they also end up having to go up against big-time matchups, whether it's SEC matchups on ABC or ESPN1, or even if it's Big Ten matchups over on Fox. They're always getting crushed by bigger games. It's almost like that's what their job is. You fill content, but you don't want your big valuable stuff to go up against other big valuable stuff. So they throw ACC games against it. So I really don't look at ACC ratings all that much, except for unless you're like an FSU or a Clemson who gets like major tier status where they clear the way and don't put you up against big competition. ACC schools get crushed in that regard.
Yeah, I've been actually looking into Big 12 basketball viewership numbers just because I'm stupid and like to look at all these numbers. Do you know Kansas has not played a game on ESPN or below ESPN all year? Kansas basketball, all their games were on ESPN or I think they were on CBS
Sure.
a couple times.
They're Kansas.
So, you know, they're going to have obviously the top numbers. All the other teams were sort of filtered through their, you know, their numbers are going to be big because they're on the better channels. So it's interesting to sort of look at that and just see. But, you know, BYU fan here, we had a contract just with ESPN, an independent contract just with ESPN to put our games on. We were the filler team. Lots of late games on ESPN too. Do you know that BYU has I think it's the 6th highest viewed ESPN2 kickoffs after 10 o'clock all time. It's like, yay, we're the.
It does say a lot for the BYU.
We're the thinnest kid at fat camp, kind of thing. But yeah, it does show that there's a high floor to BYU fan base and viewership, but it's still you're on your filler product. You're not being highlighted on the main channels.
And that's always going to be something to consider too, is they decide who they're going to put on. They're not stupid, Jeff. If you and I are making the decisions, we're putting KU basketball on over somebody else too.
Absolutely.
And so that's pretty revealing within itself. And that's something that you got to note. So you could say, oh yeah, why isn't Utah on ESPN, on primetime all the time? There's a reason for that. Mm-hmm. That's actually shown in the valuation in my view. It's like, okay, I'm telling you how valuable Utah is by putting them on big time TV channels.
Yep.
And so it's giving information. That's how I view it, at least. And if you get stuck on Pac-12 network, it's because the networks picked that.
And so it's all relative too, because contractually, they have to put Big Ten. I think has to put each team on the Big Ten network at least twice a year, or maybe it's 5 times within a 3-year period. I don't know exactly how the contract works. Pac-12, every team I think needs to be on there at least once. But was Colorado on there a lot this past year? No, they had primetime. They didn't have a great record, but they, that was must-see TV, and so all of a sudden Colorado gets the better windows that the Pac-12 has. So.
You could go the whole show, and I wouldn't have to say anything.
Jeff and I can talk for hours, man.
He's got a lot of knowledge.
And you got two apostles right here that listen to everything you're saying. So it's hard for me to turn off the spigot, but I need
No,
to sometimes.
he tries if we jump in like, oh, but Jeff.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, you came
good.
here. You reached out to us today, which I really appreciate again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you have one particular idea you wanted to get out to everybody? It's been a busy week, lots of stuff in the news. Is there one thing you know you could give us in just a little bit to express what you were thinking today?
Sure. You know, I mentioned before just about, you know, who are the good guys and bad guys of where we're going. Again, I'm fleshing that out. I'm probably going to write up a little piece about that. I think it's important to just remember that, you know, garbage in equals garbage out, that a lot of times we're looking at numbers that maybe we think are important, but aren't as important. I will give a little criticism of, that's not the right word. You know, looking at who are the best football powers, but based on how all the athletic departments sort of do their accounting, you know, looking at football revenue is something that I think is interesting. I've just looked so deeply into the revenue numbers that I've lost a lot of faith into what they really show. Like West Virginia football, we know they make a lot of money. They sell a lot of tickets. They have a lot of fans. You look at them compared to everyone else, and their football revenue is just pitiful. And we know that's not true. I've run a couple smaller companies, just, you know, very small businesses. And I've heard accountants, you know, sort of, you know, say, you know, I ask them, what do the numbers show? What does a good accountant say? What do you want the numbers to show?
Right.
So to some schools, having their women's teams look valuable is important to them. They think that makes them look like they're investing more in women's sports. And I don't know exactly what happens behind the curtain, but you could have things where you could say, well, our concessions, we're going to pay all our concessions people through the football money, but any money they make, we're going to split that equally among men's and women's basketball, so to say. So you know, that could be a lot of revenue for the women's sports. It's just, you know, I think looking at the top line, how valuable you are, like how much money did you make versus how much you spent. I think that's the number that's the most important, because it doesn't matter which silo you put it in. And so if a school like pushes everything to football or pushes everything to basketball, I don't think that's something we can trust very much. Very weird, mild thing that bugs me, but it's something I've noticed by looking deeply into the numbers.
Well, we'll look forward to having that. You're going to put that out on the ESPN 960 website. Is that where you're going to produce it?
Yeah. I'm working on a few things. I'm working up a total fans. I'm looking at who are your core fans and sort of actually trying to measure, you know, get a relative measure of who has the most core fans versus sort of fan potential versus brand value. I think those are three things to look at in realignment value that I'm sort of working up as well. So
very good. Well, we appreciate you being here. Thanks again. I hope you have a good weekend. We can't cheer for BYU tomorrow, but we'll see you in the future. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks a lot. Okay. Bye-bye. Wow. Lots of stuff going on there.
Man.
He's got a lot going on up there.
Lot going on. Just a very, very busy guy. Hey, Jeff, if you're still watching, hang on. Hey, Jeff, I cut you off. Say your go Cougs. I missed it.
Go Cougs.
There we go.
And Roll Tide.
Thank you very much.
Roll Tide. Bama's playing
okay.
right now. Going to go catch up.
All right. Have fun.
Good luck.
All right.
Roll
Sorry
Tide
about that. He was in the middle of doing that, and then I left, or I missed him. So, wow. I don't even know what to say. We covered a lot of ground there. Let's get to some shout outs. First of all, we got a world famous member come back here. You take this one.
Oh, my man, Ryan Willie is back in the house. Welcome back, the Evil Badger. We're super happy to have you here on the Big Freaking Friday show. So
this is the Ryan Willie special intro song, since I don't have Moen's background music. I'm teasing. Go ahead.
So Ryan says the Evil Badger is back. I got the impression the ACC will need to settle or the contract will be made public. That's a great segue into what we should talk about next. Immaculate. You want to give any thoughts on Ryan's comment here?
I 100% agree in terms of the settling. I think that's where it's always going to go. It's going to take too long for it to go through the full court system. No one has that amount of time. I think they're all playing towards positioning and power for the settlement. You know, how much the money is going to be, who's going to be able to use it. So I totally agree with him that that's where it's going and that's what they're playing towards. And kind of where that takes place and how that goes and what gets unsealed, that all matters in this. So, we're watching that play out kind of live for us in front of us.
This is what I got today, okay, on this topic too. So paying attention to Doug Rohan's tweets and everything and following along what's happening in the suit today, it kind of seemed like the ACC was trying to, and ESPN were trying to disguise and make sure that contract, that ESPN contract did not become public in any which way, shape,
100%.
form, doing whatever. And so Florida State was basically poking the bear, right side, left side, top, bottom, every side to try to basically ask in different ways to make that document public, not just to make that document available to review from the FSU side, because they could have that. But their big argument here was to try to get it out to the public side so everyone can take a look at this. So that was actually kind of an interesting aspect of what happened today.
He, for one thing, Doug, in a former life when he was must have worked for a judge or was in a court reporting position, because his tweeting was darn near as accurate as you would get from a court reporter. So shout out for Doug and his transcription skills. The other thing I want to shout out, Ryan Willie. Ryan, it's great to see you back. We love hearing you be part of our show. We missed you. And we're very grateful that you're a member, and hopefully we can adapt and make better choices in the future and really increase the level of our dialogue on the College Football Mafia, Big 12 Mafia show. We really appreciate that on the networks.
I want to make a good choice right now. Georgia Tech. Come on,
Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech.
I don't have a drink.
All right.
Come rocking, right? You don't
Well,
have a
then
drink.
you better go get one. What are you doing?
I'm going to have to figure that out off camera here.
So Rock has been out. I happened to get him for just a few minutes. I appreciate him jumping on. He joins as another guest on the guest of thousands that we have on our show. But Rock, I know you've been following this ACC stuff. I know you were following Doug Rohan, and you've seen some other information that's out there. Give us your perception of how that went.
Yeah, first shout out to Doug and others for their coverage and also Immaculate earlier. I think they did a really great job. And, to me, my takeaway from it mainly was that based on what we were hearing from the judge, and I wish we could hear the audio just to get the tone of those questions, not just the text of them. But if I had to put money on, and I don't have any from the college basketball pool blowing up already, but I would bet on the fact that there's a pretty good chance that the case might get thrown out initially, because he was really focused on the whole concept of material and in the sense of the voting that did or did not happen before the initial suit. And if they didn't do the vote properly, anything that happened after, to me, makes it very ripe for a dismissal, regardless of whether after the fact they had the second vote. So if you're asking me my betting line, separate and apart from the ESPN part of the conversation, I think that it has a pretty good chance of getting thrown out based off of that, because it was already bad from inception.
Right.
So if it gets thrown out, like what for a layman, okay? Like what if it gets thrown out? What does that mean for the person that doesn't follow the legal side, and what does that mean for Florida State and like the magnitude of this move? I guess
I think it just gets thrown out from a North Carolina perspective, right? It has no impact on what's going on from the Florida State case, and I would leave it to not somebody who's dealt with a lot of legal stuff from a business development standpoint versus an actual real practicing lawyer to comment on what the grounds to refile that countersuit from an ACC perspective in North Carolina. To me, the bigger part is that if it were to get thrown out, that even though this is the same judge handling Clemson now, potentially ACC suit against Clemson as well as the Florida State suit, then there's not a possible commingling of those. Whether or not there's a path that should it get thrown out, and it's now just a Florida State versus ACC for the moment in the state of Florida case, whether there's any sort of way for it to rear its head back into the state, either via the ACC coming back because they have the grounds and the legal pathway to file again in North Carolina, or is somebody else, like in North Carolina, depending upon your point of view, were to then do a separate case there, and now there's another reason to bring those together. That's my take. I mean, I'm super curious to see what happens. I'd love chaos at this point, just to watch it all melt apart, and if having a whole nother show or two to talk about how the case just got thrown out because they didn't take the proper vote would be just awesome for views and clicks and keeping the board level down.
I find that interesting because you're a Miami fan, and we've heard that from Florida State people saying, yeah, we want exposure. We want the whole thing to burn down. We want all the discovery to come out. And now we're hearing it from Miami fans. So it's obvious people are getting stressed, and there's a lot of tension there. Before we move on to more questions.
Yeah, there's different things, right? In terms of, there's different things of what your rivalry is and what you want to have happen from like a.
No, I know. I'm teasing. I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing.
I can agree with FSU every once in a while.
Okay, let's really quick do a reset. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. Make sure you follow all of us on Twitter, and that includes Jeff Fuller, who was just on the show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, and then on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment or suggestion. We do try to, interact on those things. So the time you spend there, we really appreciate. And then last but not least, turn on your notifications so that you know when our next shows are. And you're going to know if we have a pop-up show, another WildU University short, or just another massive news night like we have tonight. So thank you for everybody being here. Reset done. Let's see here. Did you have this next question?
I saw that you pulled up a comment from David Floyd.
Yeah, I'm looking for a. Yeah, let's do that.
Corroborate that.
I'm looking for a. I need context. I need a link.
Yeah, can somebody confirm this? Right.
Because I can't find it. I'll read it.
He's
oh, man.
He's making.
David.
This was a little bit of a joke based off of the SEC and Big Ten Formative Advisory Committee.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. We appreciate the comment there, David. Thanks for having us. Yeah, it's just a reverse for basketball. I got it.
From a humor way.
Got me, David. I was about to do a dance out here.
David made me put that up on the screen, and then turned to find out it was all fake news. Somebody's going to clip that out on Twitter, and they're going to put it out there.
Friday
Mafia is saying, no, we're not seeing any of that crap. Anyway, so you off of that question, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like just talking with this lawsuit and everything. I'm just kind of curious on where you guys think the momentum's going. So this would go to the Rock and Rant and Immaculate. Like, so the momentum today, it seems like it was pro Florida State. But what's your thoughts on where this is going now, and who won the day?
Do you guys just want to answer questions rather than just going on with our opinions? Is that okay, you?
Yeah.
Okay, because we got a ton of questions. And I should have asked for that before. That's my fault. Bad directing on my part. I put you out there to say something. And you did great. Okay, let's just start at the top. So JB's over Aces says, show idea. How can Big 12 leverage basketball to help close the money gap with the Big 10 and SEC? You write that down. There's an idea for you.
No, I know this. It's really what David said. Stick it to them. I mean, the SEC is horrible at basketball. Obviously, what happened in the tournament this year and everything. So the Big 12 needs to strong arm them and get more share out of basketball. Big 12 is the basketball juggernaut. The Big East should be getting pretty good money, and so should the Big 10. But the SEC should be taking less of a share of basketball. If they're going to play that card in football, then the Big 12 needs to play that card in basketball. So it's a strong arm tactic from your mark. And eventually, the only solution to really bridge the revenue gap, and you guys hate this, everybody hates this and everything, but it's to commercialize and privatize the basketball tournament. Take it away from the NCAA and roll it out and give it to private equity.
I don't hate that. I did say I hate it.
A lot of people hate that. A lot of people hate it because
why?
They think it's going to leave the little guy out, which it wouldn't. You don't need to do. You don't need to leave the little guy out. But like the NCAA doesn't need to be operating a $1.3 billion tournament when they take a nice chunk of the change. That tournament's worth $2 billion or more. And so they're not making the most out of that. The exposure needs to be better. Why are games on freaking True TV, guys? Why are games on True TV?
Because NCAA is a corrupt organization. I don't know.
Like so the whole company that owns like TBS and TNT True's part of that. So they've bought that much, so they're putting it on 3 different
Right.
channels.
I think his question is, why are they doing it at all? Why are any TBS,
Why do the
Turner's
NCAA
paying
allow
that
why
that?
are they doing any of that?
Turner's
like
paying
Turner-
that much. Someone will
No.
have to come in and outbid them.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like Google could buy the whole thing, or
Yeah,
YouTube
like
could
they
buy the
could
whole
start
thing.
to bring in more.
Apple.
And
Right.
it's CBS
NCAA,
too,
they're
right?
a little old school. They don't want to do the work. They've got this old TV partner in Turner that's done this for years with them.
Right.
So they need to kind of move forward.
Plus, it's
Rock,
not
Take
just
it away from the NCAA. The NCAA does not deserve to be running the basketball tournament anymore. The NCAA can go do D2 stuff and go watch over the other sports, but football and basketball needs be its own private entities, and private equity needs to get involved and do funding of this and maximize revenue in basketball. And with that happening, the Big 12 can make more money.
All right. Shots fired. Shots fired. Alert. Everybody keep your head down. Ryan Willie, a member in good standing for a $2 super chat. Big 12 basketball is overrated.
Well, someone can fire back if they'd like, but
I mean,
Dude.
I don't know if he. I mean, SEC should probably be waving that flag today, at least, right?
he's a Big Ten fan, and he's
He's a Big Ten fan.
Big Ten
Yeah,
has
I
not
think-
lost yet.
Yeah.
So
Well, at the
Sorry.
end of the
What?
day, go ahead, you.
I'm shocked that Ryan. Why would you say this about the Big 12 when you could say it about the SEC, my friend?
I know it just means more losses for the SEC, so they should just be really
Well, we like that.
getting the credit that they don't deserve.
Another comment here from preseason champions. The rulings will get the main media attention. Good luck with predicting what a judge is going to do. It's interesting to speculate, though, which is obviously we're interpreting the information that's put out into the public eye, and then we are turning around and reporting with our opinions. Does any one of you guys feel strongly about answering this comment?
no, when I saw him make that, I was absolutely in agreement that we are kind of saying what we think is going to happen, but please, everyone understand that when you got one person who has full say in all this, it's going to go in the direction that they want. He did kind of hint towards merging the ruling, so I do think that that's going to happen. I do think it's going to stay in North Carolina now that there's more than one school involved. Other than that, though, we'll see what he has to say. He might have some surprises for us here about this.
And Immaculate and I are going to have to do a drinking game over whether they're going to get merged or it's going to get thrown out. We'll have to figure out another code word besides Georgia Tech.
I drank more on this show than
I
I
love
have
it.
in a long time before.
Tony Lawson, $2 super chat says, "Welcome back, Dirty Badger." So see, those two equals commenting back and forth. Love having you both on the show, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I want to give a quick shout out to Greg Swaim of the Greg Swaim Show. I see that he just popped into chat.
Yeah.
What's up,
Really
Greg?
quick, let's see if I can get to his hello. Make sure he knows we see him. We see you, Greg.
No, that's
Wrong.
Mike. Go up a
We
little bit.
see, where's Greg? Right there. We see you, Greg. I hope you're feeling well. I hope your show's going good. We're really glad to see you out. At the same time, we have a comment right next to you from Jared Jones saying, who's a member, saying, does overrated mean dominant? If so, then yes, it's overrated. Talking about the Big 12 basketball.
Whoa, hey, KU's in the tournament. Iowa State's going to win the dang thing, guys.
He
Watch.
was complimenting the Big
Well,
12.
Houston, yeah, he's giving us a compliment there.
Houston, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he wasn't saying negative.
I'm feeling a little chippy after
know,
that.
I was like,
switch out of the
hey,
Big
bro,
12. I
you
guess
gotta take the
I'm
compliment
seeing
when it
everything
comes.
from a negative standpoint.
Jared's on our
Thank you,
side
Jared.
generally. Jared's on our side generally.
He
appreciate
backs
you
against
being
the Ohio
here.
State fan, and
Thank you.
them and
By the
Iowa
way,
aren't in the tournament.
We're in countdown now. We're about 25 minutes before we're done. So really quick, we'll do a final wrap up. If you guys want your comment read, for sure at this point, it'll have to be a super chat. Otherwise, you could join and become a member. And then those comments are always highlighted, just like Jared Jones was. And we love to have everybody there. Other than that, I want to make sure everybody knows how much we appreciate them being here tonight. Rock and Red, this is your comment. Why don't you read your own comment and then answer it?
Who is that idiot who said that? Yeah, I mean,
It's
that's what we were
easy
talking
to
about a little.
criticize from the cheap seats. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, those Canes guys, I swear to God. But yeah, I mean, that's really just my take. I'm reading the tea leaves of the judge, and I agree with the earlier comment that it's hard to predict what a judge is going to do. But sometimes it's not that hard to predict. Sometimes there are cases where it's really clear. I don't know. This one's really clear just by evidence of Immaculate and I having a different take of what we think might ultimately happen. But that's what I think will happen. I think, at least initially, the Clemson case might be the only one in North Carolina, barring if the judge rules the way I think it would be in Florida State, we continue against the ACC in Florida, and then we'll see if somebody else files or if there's a path back, if that were to happen, that the ACC can again countersue Florida State.
Only real quick counter to that. When it was just Florida State, I absolutely was saying that they were going to throw out that initial because it doesn't have the vote. Just go back to Florida and that'd be it. Now with Clemson being here, that's basically this judge will be saying this whole situation needs to be seen in two locations rather than one.
But if he thinks that Florida State's case is invalid from inception because it was never valid it wasn't voted on initially, he can't sit there and say, let's keep it together because the case is bad from the beginning. It has a shot of being thrown out, even if he knows it might boomerang back in another way, unless he takes some sort of mitigating path in between where he doesn't throw it out, but requires the ACC to formally go back and agree to their bylaws. That's what my take.
That's kind of what we heard from Ron, is that he'd make them go and refile. And also you're looking at, they do have multiple motions in there. It's not just the one, there are two. So there's the motion to seal and the motion to dismiss. So he could dismiss and they still have the seal thing going on. And that's reasonable. I don't think that ESPN's going to win that. I think that one was clearly not going in their favor. But I mean, he's got their Supreme Court put both of these cases in his hands. So there might be some other things going on with this that we don't know about. We'll see. I mean, like you're saying, it could go exactly like you're saying. And that's what I thought before when it was just the two parties. But this is quickly becoming much more complicated. And before he even, rules, we might have another party getting involved as well. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Do you want to comment on this at all?
Georgia Tech
drinking game. Take a drink, everybody. By the way, I've got a surprise guest host coming in right behind Rock and Rant. Don't go anywhere, Rock. I'm not kicking you off. But it's somebody I invited that always has an open invitation to the shows I moderate. Hopefully the link works for them and they can get in. Really quick, we got another Ryan Willie super chat. For $2. He's also a member. He says, that's why Greg calls me the evil Badger, Ute.
Making fun of Big 12 basketball is like making fun of SEC football. You can't do it. Can't do it. But hey, we'll forgive Evil Badger. We'll forgive.
Well, we appreciate Evil Badger being here even. That's what I care about. Let's see here. How about this one from Ryan Thomas? One of our members says having three cases in one in North Carolina can knock the whole gore out all at once. And I would add to that, last night we had Doug Rohan on our show, and I would encourage everybody to go and watch that show last night. That Doug sort of prepped everybody about what was going to happen today. It's an amazing show. Let me get the actual link for you so everybody knows where that video was. Hang on one second. I'm going to post the link to the hit list. It was my first edition of the hit list, and I'm pretty proud of the show. Here's the link to get into it. And that'll be there tomorrow. After the show is on there tonight. When do you guys want to answer this one, or all three?
Well, the judge actually spoke pretty harshly towards the ACC in regards to, they're trying to say like how it wasn't material, trying to defend their not having the vote for the first one. And he came back at them saying, are you kidding me? If I was to rule against you and dismiss, and with the damage that it would cause to the gore and to maybe for those throughout the entire industry. I'm paraphrasing. This isn't exactly what he said.
Right.
But basically saying not only is it material, but there could be huge ramifications for this case. So he really came at them hard when they tried to pass that off. It was almost making them look rather irresponsible by saying that it's not material. And that just goes to show just kind of how desperate they were to cover up the fact that they did not have the vote for the initial complaint. And if their testimony was like they had someone waiting at the Florida State Board of Trustees meeting to serve the president after that, and they didn't even really know that there was going to be, that they were going to file, or that the vote to file would go through, or even what it was a vote for. Right. They just either assumed it or they had some insider knowledge. But yeah, he went into him hard, because this could have ramifications towards not just the score, but other ones from other conferences.
All the Gores, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's like an irony there that the thing that ACC is arguing is immaterial is actually everything.
Right.
It's like the most material thing in the whole case.
Are you breathing or are you not breathing? Which one is it?
Wow. Rock, we love to have you on just for comments like that. That's
he's nails on that.
That's exactly
the most material thing ever.
Here's another Rock, but this is Rock Chalk 94, another one of our valued members. Says FSU Miami to big, UNC and Clemson to the SEC, Pitt, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, and Louisville, all to the Big 12. So he's calling his shot. Is there any chance, Ute, that Syracuse could sneak in and get an invite for the Big 12?
There's a chance. I wouldn't put it's more likely than Miami coming over to the Big 12. I'm going to say that. The Syracuse option, because of the market, because of the basketball, even some historical football success, and like the brand of Syracuse actually is more valuable than you think. It's just one of those conundrums, like Virginia Tech, like they sell out and they have Enter Sandman. We think they're a massive brand, but then the numbers don't show that. It's super confusing. Syracuse is actually a strong candidate. You wouldn't think so too. There's basically like a 180 from Virginia Tech in this realignment game. Right. A lot of the schools that you got out here are rock chalk. Yeah, a lot of people agree with that. I would put Clemson in the Big 10 too. That's the only difference that I would say. But those 4 candidates in the Big 12 are going to be strong ones.
Immaculate, Rock, you got it.
That would be an awesome lineup for sure. If it comes down to that, I would, of course, selfishly be thrilled with that. But I think it would just be an interesting lineup from a college football perspective. I don't really put a lot of weight into what your record is this year when it's a lifetime decision that these conferences, right, or lifetime until next week. But let's just say it's a longer relationship. It will be interesting, though, if that matters at all, to see what happens with Syracuse this year and next in terms of football, because they really have put some better people into place there in terms of coaching and some of the recruiting things they're doing. Whether it will come to fruition in the time that these decisions happen will, to make any impact, that I don't know. But they, if you're not paying attention to Syracuse football, they are doing a lot of good things right now that show that they're a lot more serious than maybe they were.
Immaculate?
To me, this is probably you would say a very popular projection. My own personal one that I'm going with for the future is very unorthodox. So I would have a little bit of a change to this based upon that. But if we're just going with kind of general, accepted thoughts and whatnot, I would say this one's pretty down the middle, like what most people probably would think.
It's like almost the chalk, what everyone.
Okay. All right. Let's go to another one. Terry Kane. I think he's a friend of yours there, Rock. Said he's a member, and he says the biggest thing I seen today was the ACC and ESPN wanting to keep the gore away from sight. Just sign it if you don't need to, and you don't need to read it. That was remarkable. Can somebody summarize what that basically came down to today? Neither of you can.
I was responding to something in chat. Well, yeah, ESPN definitely. When their folks came in there towards the end, they were very much saying how this is trade secrets and going in hard on it until the judge decided to backhand them as well. And his might have been even stronger than what he did to the ACC. And to be fair, he took a couple shots at FSU. That first FSU attorney who came in, not the strongest. The second one, pretty strong.
The tag in, right? I saw it. It was.
I was joking about it initially, and then they started doing it. I'm like, oh, here we go. Here come the attorney tag-ins. There she is. But yeah, no, they were definitely trying to get everything. That's part of the seal, the motion to seal.
Right.
And I don't think that went well for them at all. They might get like a temporary just for the case, but I don't think they're going to get like a strong seal.
Immaculate. I saw it after the fact, so I don't know what the back and forth was, but the thing I remember taking away, and maybe you can elaborate on it, because I thought it was a great line, was essentially that they want to keep it hidden, except for they broadcast how much it's worth and how many years it's for. So
Right.
something along those lines was what I thought might have come out in some of the things that Doug posted, but I don't know for sure. Maybe you recall.
Well, the part that they're putting out in public, you could even say is actually false. Remember the storyline was all about how the deal goes to 2036 and all this money is guaranteed until then. And that is not what we found out to be true. And the schools didn't find that out to be true until they went to the ACC headquarters to look. And ESPN is saying that they don't have the right to share what they find there, even though they, as public institutions, are beholden to that. And that's basically what they were saying, even what the judge was saying. I mean, ESPN just got pooed all over. I'm sorry, but that's
Immaculate. Wait. Are you saying that the schools didn't understand there was the clause in the contract for ESPN to extend the contract? The schools didn't realize that? Is that what you're saying?
The first time that was made public is when
that
Florida
was not
State,
public knowledge. Now I have seen some information shared with me through, however reputable it is, that someone back in maybe 21 was mentioning that they knew about this. So I think there might have been some knowledge, but I don't think it went so far as like the board of trustees. I don't think they knew about it.
It was out in the public sphere. Yeah, it was on Google. You could find it if you put.
No, you could not find anything about the 2027 opt-in.
That was their excuse for showing it.
I know, but that was zero public knowledge. I don't even think the board of trustees.
No. I'm not saying it's I'm not saying anybody knew. Yeah. I'm saying it was available. It's somebody knew how to access it. I'm not saying the contact information was put out to get it.
We did not even really come to find that out until they went to the ACC headquarters and read the media rights agreement between the ACC and ESPN. That was nowhere in the goal.
I'm just talking about the timing. We found out about it.
I'm just curious, like, because
found out about
it sounds to me like the schools didn't fully understand. The schools themselves didn't fully understand that was in the contract. Is that what I'm understanding here?
Yeah, and if someone did, it was just like the very tip top. Like, does that make like the word supposedly leaked out about it from like ESPN and the ACC, but the schools didn't really know that was the actual thing, is that the ESPN could opt out of it.
I would just say this. Bob Thompson didn't know. And he's in the business, and he understands how those things are put together. Yeah, and he was even surprised by the information.
And that's why ESPN is saying this is a trade secret, and they didn't want their competitors to know about it. That's what they're talking about, is that thing. I mean, there's probably some more, but these little details that they threw in there that was not made public, that they were not bragging about.
Right.
That's what they want sealed, and they don't want anyone to know about. But to the point that was actually made, it's already public. It's already known. Like, what are you seeing?
Jen just left. I couldn't cut to her in time. All right, Jen, if you're still watching, I'm sorry. I was just going to call you out. I saw you. She's probably mad at me now.
I'm sure she'll come back. She's got a lot of tea to drink after all that stuff that went down today in favor of FSU and most of our opinions. So.
Sorry, I just some fences there. All right, we got a super chat here. Ryan Willie, $5 says, I have Wisconsin losing tonight. I want Greg Gard fired. Who's Greg Gard? The coach? You guys know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who Greg Gard is. And we don't normally call for people's jobs around here, Ryan, but hey, it's your comment. So
it's his own coach, so I guess.
Let's see here. Let's get to some more comments as we're moving right along. Okay. Let's see here. RFR Max says the decision may be a mixed bag. I think that's what that's kind of what Doug Rohan was saying. They might win on some things, but other things they're going to probably be put back. Don't you guys agree?
I mean, maybe. It's kind of hard to say. Like, I do think that the sealing won't happen, but unless it's on a temporary basis just for the case, he might ask them to refile, which, is going to change the filing date, which could change some primacy issues. We'll see. I mean, I do think that Clemson coming in has complicated the issue somewhat.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much, RFR Mac. We appreciate your membership. And what he said. Ryan Thomas. Oh, wait. Did I do this one already? If the case goes forward, look for UNC to jump in. I don't know if I did that or not, but I just did it now. Let's get to some No, we already did those. Sorry. I'm back on old comments. I apologize, guys. Give me 1 second. All right. Here we go. VC Null says, if it isn't material, why are they even filing at all? That's a good question.
It's not material, but let's do it tomorrow.
Right.
It's super urgent, but it's not material.
Okay.
Legalese, guys.
Kind of a
So we don't
desperate
know.
explanation of basically them having to rush to file.
Right.
Now they're trying to come up with a reason, but it's kind of insulting the judge's intelligence when you do stuff like that, and he blasted him for it.
I want to thank Jen for joining for that little bit. Jen, come back if you're still watching. I'm sorry I couldn't get to you. Really quick. She's not mad at me. Her phone rang. Okay. Roris is. Do you guys recognize that name, Roris? I think that's new.
He's been
Roris.
around a few times.
Has he? Okay. Well, we're glad to have you, Roris.
Did he steal one of Rowan's wigs?
Maybe. Roris says the Big and the SEC can't wait to split the ACC playoff revenue after they add the ACC's most valuable schools, because then they will have all the best players and teams. Ute. That's our worst fear, right? As BYU and Utah fans, Big 12 fans, this statement right here is probably our biggest concern. Is there any reason people should feel positive about it?
The only positivity here is that the ACC is going to become an A4 conference, like the lower level conference than like the A3, and the Big 12 will gobble up ACC teams and it will make more money in doing so because there will be less mouths to feed in the A4.
Well, there won't really be a strong A4 anymore for the most part.
No, exactly. So the ACC contract
Maybe
with the ESPN that now is going to be worth a lot less.
Yeah.
And the Big 12 contract is going to be worth more. That's how to sum it up. But yeah, this is true. And this is going to happen. The Big 12, or the Big 10 and the SEC, we're going to get richer.
Look, if there wasn't, just to play devil's advocate, if what you're saying is true, and this is the destined path for the ACC, there's no change in it. There's nothing. Don't you think that some of these schools that have a lot of power and a lot of money would be a little more active in trying to set themselves up? I'm talking about a Stanford. I'm talking about a Duke. If those guys have enough power and money, we saw what happened with Stanford with having Condoleezza Rice go out and basically action to get them into the ACC. I think that there might be something else going on there, and we can talk about how it seems likely that they're going to go down the path you're saying. But when we're on here saying like there's just no other possibility, I have to speak up every time.
No, I don't think we're saying
another
that.
possibility.
That's just our opinion.
I know.
You have a separate opinion that's just as valuable. So
yeah,
I know, but we have to repeat it over and over because
we do, so people understand. I agree with you. Jen is here. She's having trouble with her phone, obviously. Jen, once you get in, just start talking. The guys will shut up, I promise.
I'm so sorry. Like I swear all my electronics today have decided to just freak out. My AirPods have freaked out. My laptop has freaked out. My phone just.
Yeah. It's been a day for a lot of people. I had the same troubles today all day long. I've had struggles at work and everything.
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I want to thank you for being here. We're going to stay on an extra 15 minutes to have you here. You've had Danielle. You've had Doug Rohan. Well, maybe we'll keep going if you're lively and entertaining.
No, I didn't mean to keep you guys.
You're not keeping us. You're not keeping us. We've been waiting for you.
How's it been 2 hours already? I cannot believe this, man. It's flown by.
We're cruising. So just to set the table, you've had Doug Rohan. You've had Danielle Kelly. You've also had other people on your show. Sum up this day of days for the ACC and Florida State.
I think if you want to call balls and strikes here, okay, and I've talked to multiple attorneys and Doug, who, by the way, Doug thinks the lawsuit is going to be kept in North Carolina, right? Okay. That's his opinion. And he's a Florida State guy, so I'm not trying to come at this. I talked to multiple people. a couple that were Florida State, a couple that weren't, a couple. I talked to an ACC lawyer today. I think I do agree with Doug that I think the probability right now is for it to stick with North Carolina because of Clemson filing. However, the ACC's absolutely improper filing really pissed the judge off more than they thought it was going to.
Okay.
I do think that at the end of the day, when you saw the two parties come together and say, don't go back, let's not do this motion, because if you dismiss or if you stay or however else it goes, it's going to be moot, right? It's going to be a moot point. And to me, that kind of feels like attorneys that think they lost.
Really?
I do.
Really? So
I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure.
Right. I'm just trying to put it in context. When you say losing, I had Doug on last night on the show, and he made sure that everybody knew that it wasn't a ruling; it was a hearing, and then they would do stuff in the background, stuff like that. So let's take it in pieces. So you're saying, first of all, the main suit is not going to go away in North Carolina, right?
Well, it should. Okay, that's the problem. That's the problem I'm having, because if you are a judge, and again, I'm not an attorney. I only did pre-law, guys. I'm not that person, okay? But if you're an attorney or a judge that looks at this, they did file improperly. And you could tell by the judge's questions that they were not happy with that. Immaculate, I know you agree with me on this.
Oh, yeah, I've been
saying that for a while. They were not happy. They absolutely blasted every argument the ACC tried. They even tried to lead them in a good way, and then the ACC still blew it. Like, that was rough. That was a rough portion. But I do think the first 30 minutes when they came in was good. Now, the rest of it was bad. I don't know what was going on with the ESPN lawyers. That was bad.
Questions, guys? You guys have questions for Jen? I have a ton, but if you guys,
I've got a question. So, what's the significant? Okay, this is really layman, basic question. Okay, like building block question. So, what's the significance of keeping the lawsuit in North Carolina versus a different state? Like, why does that matter to Florida State is in their ability to win this case? I guess I get mixed up. Like, why is that even relevant?
I don't know if it has anything to do with the relevancy of winning the case. I think it has more to do with what Florida State wanted to do in order to get a more favorable settlement. So you bring it to Florida, you decide discovery with the ACC, with ESPN. A judge might look at this and say, in Florida, you can actually throw everything out in Florida. So Florida State filing it in Florida could actually get out for nothing if the judge rules in their favor. North Carolina, not so much. It's going to be more of like a settlement. It's going to be like a, maybe a 70 million to the 500 million. Like that's the range. In Florida, it's all or nothing.
It's because of the different state laws. Yeah, and in the ability to negotiate a smaller settlement amount in the state of Florida based on advantageous law. Okay.
Yep.
Sense.
Yeah, the degree of exposure to the dirty laundry that we all think we haven't even seen yet is larger on a public level from inception in Florida because of the sunshine laws should it go.
Yep.
So it's not like in discovery they probably wouldn't find it in North Carolina. They get it, but it could be more under seal kind of thing, as opposed to everyone knowing everything that comes out under Florida law is what my understanding and reading of it would be, possibly. And so much more leverage for FSU then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's right. Yeah.
Your thoughts are that the Florida State really won the day then, right? Is that
I don't know. I agree with Doug. I do think that the likelihood, because Clemson filed, it could end up in North Carolina. But again, if you look at it, they filed improperly to begin with. So the whole case legally, technically, should be thrown out. There shouldn't be anything else. And Clemson filed first. So I'm not able to reconcile those two things for me right now. And I know some other people are, and again, that's fine. And everybody has different opinions, but for me, it's the fact that the judge seems so pissed off with the way the ACC filed this that it just seemed like a sticking point for me.
And the judge was mad because the ACC didn't have the right to file it because they didn't have sufficient votes at the beginning, correct?
They didn't just not have the votes. They went around their own bylaws with the no votes, and they had no injury because Florida State hadn't done anything yet.
Yeah. They also did lawyer bad 101 stuff where you cite case law and then you put case law in your thing and then you actually don't know the case law when the judge asks you a question, which is generally not a super wise approach to lawyering.
Yeah. I mean, it was weird. It was so weird because the first 30 minutes, the ACC lawyers seemed like they were just coasting. Like, it was amazing. It was like 40 minutes. I was just going, oh my God, this is going to be a bad day for me. And then all of a sudden the judge asked one question. I wish I could remember what it was. And it seemed like it just turned it on a dime. And then he tagged in another attorney, maybe. Was that the same time?
That's exactly right. Yes. It changed.
Yeah. He
was
tagged in another
losing.
attorney and it just went, ugh.
Right.
And the ESPN lawyers, by the way, woof. What in the world? Well, yeah, we forgot. We didn't really file to keep all this quiet in Florida because
we
did it in North Carolina. That was weird.
Judges don't like being told what to do. We saw that in the Washington hearing for the Pac-12. Washington was punished for using broad terms instead of specific laws, whereas Washington State had really tied them down to certain statutes, and obviously they got beat. Here's a comment here from Friends Call Me Sean. Good to have you here, Sean, who's a member. He says, ACC deceived the schools by telling them that they had to extend the deal to 2036. They hadn't lied, but they didn't tell the whole truth. They didn't tell the schools. It gave ESPN the option to exit. That was talked about a little bit today. Was there anything in that piece of it that you wanted to mention tonight?
No, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of this, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to let somebody else answer that one. I'm going to try and read that question a little bit more.
Okay.
My eyesight's really bad, guys.
Immaculate,
to be honest.
Do you have a comment on that? I know you and Rock basically both tracked it really far today.
I'm not quite sure I follow completely in terms of them telling them they had to sign to extend. I know had to do with like the ACC network and deals. But just kind of going back to what we were just talking about before that, keep in mind the difference, and Doug talked about this on an after show. The difference between dismissing with prejudice and dismissing without prejudice will be a very big deal in terms of what the judge decides to do if he decides to dismiss. If he dismisses without prejudice, they'll be able to turn right around and refile. And that's going to happen before the Clemson case is done. So he knows if he's not going to dismiss with prejudice that it's coming right back. And, we can talk about jurisdiction, all that, but it'll be in both places. And he even said early on that he was basically inferring that he knows it's going to get appealed either way. Yeah. So for him to pass it on, I don't know. It's pretty messy. I don't think he's going to dismiss with prejudice. So I think it's stuck there now that Clemson. Oh my God, Daniel's joining us.
We got Danielle here. Really quick, Danielle.
Now I'm just going to shut up because now we have a true lawyer.
We actually have Ryan Willie just gifted 5 memberships. So
Evil Badger.
Thank you very much, Ryan. I normally would let somebody else read them, but I'm going to read the names really quick. Mooncat, Seminole School, Irvin Williams, T.F. Williams, and John Dowie. You guys all got free memberships from our good friend, Ryan Willie. If you want to please thank him in the comment section, thank him on Twitter, whatever it is. And then yourselves think about paying it forward. You got a free membership. Maybe somebody else should get one too. We're very grateful for those. And on our next show with Moen, we're going to do a whole thing with super chats and with new memberships. It'll be a production to thank everybody because I don't have the sounders. All right. Danielle poked me about a little bit after Jen did. So Danielle, just sum up today for you. Are you feeling good, feeling bad? How does your day winded down after everything that happened in Mecklenburg County?
I'm optimistic, even with, Clemson. Let's just simplify Clemson filing suit and the ACC filing suit against Clemson there. We could end up in venue, of course, in North Carolina. Overall, what the judge did today showed that he is going to be fair and he is going to hold people's feet to the fire on the key issues. So I'm optimistic about that if we do end up there. I'm also optimistic about the fact that he was drilling home this vote issue that we've all been raising and really upset about. So overall, I'm optimistic. Did the ACC come out strong initially? Yes. But when they were forced to answer questions, they kind of fell off. Florida State, on the other hand, kind of was, it's hard. It really is. And Jen and I just discussed this, and y'all know if Jen comes on, I'm coming on because I go.
You're a pair that I can't have enough of. That's all I can say.
But yeah, no, and FSU, wasn't as strong in some points, but was very strong in some other points. And the judge seemed to really have a good handle on what was going on and what the possibilities could be. So overall, I'm optimistic, regardless of what happens.
There's a comment here, and this is both to you and Jen, from Nathan Campbell. He says, Bomber, can you ask Jen, and this would go for Danielle as well, how fast she thinks other schools might get involved? Immaculate's mentioned this quite a few bits tonight about North Carolina sort of piling on. Do we anticipate that's going to be happening, or do you think this ruling is actually going to come down first? I don't care which one of you talk.
I think the ruling comes down first.
Okay. So not like next week.
No.
Okay.
Although, look, I don't know. I think this ruling might actually, the more I think about it, go against the ACC. So I could see North Carolina doing it this weekend, doing like a weekend dump. Trying to beat the ACC to the courthouse. That's what I would say.
I don't see the upside though. It's like Clemson. We all thought was going to wait for a while. They were better off waiting because there's like 7 things at least from FSU's initial filing that Clemson found out before they went. UNC's in a similar place. If they just wait a few more days, they get the benefit of everything now, but also could go later. So
very good. Danielle, what do you think?
I think, the judge alluded to the fact that he has obviously until April 9th, to potentially issue this ruling because that's the hearing in Florida, which is the reverse of today. That's the ACC motion to dismiss here. So I think a ruling will come down. Do I think UNC jumps before that? Possibly not. I mean, I'm kind of with Jen on that. And plus, there's a conflict of interest there anyway between the AD and the Board of Trustees. I think everybody's getting on the same page at UNC, but I'm not necessarily. Then again, I could wake up tomorrow and my phone's dinging that UNC filed a lawsuit. So I'm not kidding.
That would not surprise you.
It would not surprise me.
Okay. All right. Scott White here for another super chat says, Big 12 will make more money than they ever have always been at a deficit to the Power 2 schools. A lot of diminishing returns in place here, the SEC and the ACC. You want to answer that really quick?
Yeah, he's right, though. The Big 12 is going to make more money. For sure, once this breaks apart, once the nut cracks here for the ACC and everyone jumps off the ship, all the rats jump off the ship like we know are going to happen, the Big 12 is going to benefit. The ACC will take a step back, and the Big 12 will lift, and the Power 2 will lift as well. But the Big 12 will be able to hopefully renegotiate a better television contract now that the ACC network and its contract will probably cease to exist. So I think the Big 12 stands to benefit the most from the ACC's destruction.
We like that.
We're going to be clear about that. Really, we're going to be clear about that on this channel. We support the Big 12. We support all conferences, but hey, we really love the Big 12.
Yep.
And we want to see them benefit. And this is a zero-sum game, so sorry, it sucks for some, but hey, that's how it works.
All right, we've got time for one more one more statement from both Jen and Danielle, and then we'll get everybody out of here. I mean, it's after 9 o'clock back east, so I really appreciate you guys being on tonight with us. Danielle, is there any parting words you want to give our viewers tonight that they can look forward to in the next week coming out of this today?
Overall, the two motions, the motion to dismiss, I do not, or in the alternative stay, I do not know what the judge is going to do. He hammered home questions to both sides. Of course, like I said, more so on the on the vote issue towards the other side. And then more so, ACC kind of nailed a jurisdiction argument pretty well on that. The motion to seal is probably the most inquisitive issue to me right now. And the arguments that were made there by ESPN and the ACC. So pay attention to that one. I don't know if we'll get a ruling next week. I don't know if UNC will file a lawsuit by next week. I don't know any.
Right.
But
that's not true. You know stuff. I know you know stuff.
As soon as I say no, it's going to happen.
Right.
This is why, like, even in weather, if I post no warnings, no watches, my weather team gets on to me because one will pop up. So I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to say, we'll see. But overall, today was a great day. It's, hitting the bullet points of the motions and getting the arguments out there in front of the judge.
I love how all Florida State people are empowered today. It's been awesome. Jen.
Well, I've been kind of bullish on this point today, so I'm just going to do it on this show again because to me, I think that the whole point of the lawsuit with the motion to dismiss ends with the fact that the ACC did not take the vote that their own laws required them to take. And then they made this argument that it wasn't material and then did a vote in January. I think if you dismiss that point, sorry.
Okay.
You're kind of screwed.
I love it.
That's just how I feel.
Right. Well, it's
right
keep
now.
it simple,
Yeah.
stupid, right? That's easy
Yeah.
for people to understand. Yeah, I agree with you. The vote after the vote was supposed to be held is probably.
I think they busted themselves out with that.
That was really
Yeah.
stupid. Really.
And they couldn't answer the questions to deal with it either. It
was a lot of pausing, right?
It wasn't just pausing. It was like they were going, I don't know.
Right.
Like it wasn't material. And then when the judge came back and said millions and hundreds of millions of dollars aren't material because if this gets thrown out because you didn't do what you were supposed to do seems material to me. When that judge said that, I was like,
somebody's in trouble. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Rock and Rant, any parting word you want to give us?
Just mark the day and time. A Miami person at FSU totally agreeing on a point.
What can we do?
In all seriousness, I said that before you came on, Jen. I was on that same point. I don't know how you can say the attachment to the main thing is material, but our original thing was frivolous and doesn't really matter.
You can't.
It might not get ruled that way, but it seems pretty silly to me.
I do see how they could do it with Clemson coming in the lawsuit. If North Carolina files, I could see how they could add these together. But if you are looking at this through black and white, if judge looking at the law, at the end of the day, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They violated their own laws. They sued when they had no injury, just like the judge said. And this should be thrown out, and everything else after that should be thrown out because they did it wrong. I know that's not what they're going to do, so we'll see how it goes from here.
Very good. Sorry, were you going to say something wrong? Are you done? Okay, he's done. Immaculate.
That's kind of the tone that I was on well before this hearing, is that it just didn't make much sense why the judge would have to go beyond the false reasons for even filing. But just based upon what he was saying, it kind of seems like he's having a hard time wanting to let it go because now he has this other case, which he alluded to.
Which, again, that's another one, though. Okay, because Clemson filed first. The ACC didn't. So why should he get that jurisdiction? That's where
Well,
I am
let me
at
ask-
a loss.
Let me ask Danielle this real quick.
Okay.
And this is something that Doug was talking about, that the judges definitely want, what was his terminology? You're going to know this a lot better than I am.
Consolidation.
Judicial efficiency. Does that
Yes.
sound right to you?
Efficiency, yes.
And
Yes.
how do you see, like, in terms of weighing this for everyone else to understand, how big of a thing is that? Because it's also like this judge would be doing kind of like a courtesy to the other courts to not be like, I don't want to deal with this. You all are going to have to deal with it. Because to what does he know? Like, maybe he has to look at this and go, maybe UNC is going to jump in. Other schools might jump in and do the same thing. Like, once you have two, who's to say there isn't going to be 5 or 6? And so if he passes the buck on this, is he not just kind of saying, do this in 6 courts, and then that forces it to go federal? Like, where do you weigh on that? We heard Doug, but what do you think?
Yeah, Doug said that last night. Yeah.
Realistic, or
Pie in the
like
sky.
practical
Yeah,
answer. No, honestly, he's a judge, he's a human. He knows, he's heard the rumors, obviously, that UNC
Sure.
may be getting ready to file suit, and he knows he may end up with a bunch of different cases up there. In the interest of judicial efficiency, would it be good to do that? There's a couple problems, and one Jen brought up. The Clemson and Florida State lawsuits are different in the sense that the ACC sued us first. So if that case gets dismissed on that ground and they refiled, then do you move to consolidate? Has UNC even filed by that point? Why? And then the judge kind of hinted at that, like, I can apply their state law here. Why let a case go forward in Florida and South Carolina and have conflicting rulings? If we can all handle it here. I got nervous when Clemson filed suit for that reason. Not that I wasn't happy. I'm totally happy. I just knew it was going to be a jurisdiction argument.
Yeah, but when Clemson filed suit first, how did they not get jurisdiction first on their own?
Exactly. That's the issue. And with the ACC suing afterwards, to me, it was another venue move to try to drag this all to North Carolina and combine it. But I cannot see how Clemson, having filed suit first, wouldn't have jurisdiction there, because Florida State's whole argument is we're in North Carolina because they sued us first. That's been the whole fight all along. They were literally, what did they say today? Something about they were waiting outside of the Board of Trustees meeting we had that Friday with a process server to serve us with the lawsuit.
Right.
They jumped the gun on that. So that's a huge issue that's going to have to be decided. And at the end of the day, you have to remember this judge, even on a technicality like that, even, realistically knowing UNC might file suit and we're going to end up with Clemson and all of them. If he doesn't dismiss this case, and there's case law saying he should, then he can get appealed by Florida State. And no judge wants an appellate court overturning their decision. It's like, I think Doug said today, the judge even said his papers get graded. Welcome to a court. So that's how that's going to work.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jen.
And I was just going to say this case can go up to the state Supreme Court. It can actually go to the Supreme Court here.
Yeah.
And no judge wants this overturned. So I think with the law being what the law is, when you file improperly, I do think what they're going to say is that I will dismiss without prejudice, right, Danielle? I think that's what he would do prejudice on that. However, I do think that then they would then require them to make that vote and refile, because you have to make the vote to refile, right? And I do think that those whole voting options change.
Yeah.
At that moment, right?
She's not wrong. Yeah. Jen's been bringing up this argument. If that happens, if you go back and get this vote, now you have to remember we're not in December anymore. Yep. Clemson has filed suit. There's rumors UNC may file suit. What is the vote going to look like? And can Florida State bring up the argument in a response to a second suit if they have to refile, saying, guess what? The vote is still not proper because it wasn't done out the gate properly, and now we're dealing with a collapse conference.
Here's what I'm asking is, then if Florida State makes that argument because of changes because of, just whatever, that's when the judge then can say, you know what? I dismiss with prejudice.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to have to leave it there, Jen. You get the last word.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Don't apologize. I wanted you guys to come on here. We're just a little bit over our normal time, and I know that was stolen time for you guys to be here, and we really, really appreciate that. Thank you, Rock and Rant, for coming in and helping us. Again, we want to give good health wishes to Moen. Hopefully he's feeling better and he continues to heal. Go ahead, Ute. You were going to say something?
It sounds like a really good day for Florida State, for Miami, for Clemson, for Utah and BYU as well. It sounds like a good day for everybody but the leftovers of the ACC.
Well, I think Miami was
Cheers,
told
Clemson,
that they weren't
D-Wall.
even like a top 3
Georgia
school
Tech.
anymore. So that wasn't me.
Wait, who said that? Huh?
What?
Oh, there was a
ACC
good shade
lawyers.
moment from the lawyer in there who threw shade. I mean, it's okay. The disbarment procedures have already been done for ethical reasons, but it's all good. It was a good shot. Look it up. You'll find it. I'm not going to.
Yes. All I know is I needed my Friday injection, and I got it.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm just catching up on notes. All right, appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Big freaking Friday. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Danielle, and thank you, Rock and Rant, for coming up and spending this time with us. I hope you have a good, safe weekend. If you've been drinking, do not leave the house. Do not drive. I don't want to get any knocks on the door from somebody saying.
Well, you can leave the house if you're drinking. Haven't you ever heard of a bar before?
I don't want people driving. I just don't want
Where are
people
you supposed
driving.
to drink if you don't leave your house?
Anyways, other than that, everybody have a great night. Stay out of trouble. We will see you on Monday for Big West Mafia. Other than that, are we doing the Sunday show, Immaculate? Are you guys doing Moen after dark?
I think we got this weekend off. We're giving Moen a little recuperation time. We'll
excellent.
Hopefully be back next week, but play it by ear, guys. We'll see how he's doing.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Immaculate. Other than that, I think we're going to get out of here. I appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Stay out of trouble, and bye-bye. Peace out.